What's up, everybody? Welcome back to I Came With Fire podcast. Tonight, we are doing another version of Popcorn Podcast. If you haven't listened to our last one, this is one where Zach and I just ask each other questions, and neither of us know what we're going to ask the other one. You don't have to watch the first one to know what's going on, but we do recommend going back and listening to our other stuff. But this is definitely a change of pace for what we've been doing lately because we've had so many guests. And
Yes.
honestly, man, it's been awesome. We've had so much good feedback too. I'd say our two that I've gotten like the most feedback about have definitely been Chief Gutierrez and then Senior Del Toro, and a lot of people talking about Senior Del Toro's episode. But yeah, man,
Yeah.
it's been awesome. We have some more guests coming up, but we've had some really smart people on, especially Sean McFate for sure. That dude, if you're
The
watching,
way he talks,
yeah,
like the way he talks and stuff, I'm like, he's obviously a doctor, but
right,
I'm
Doctor
like,
Sean McFate,
yeah, he's like talking, and I'm like, I'm really just trying to like size up, or like, when the next thing I say doesn't sound too stupid with him.
right. No, man, a couple of things he said that kind of blew my mind, especially talking about the like corporate mercenary armies and stuff like that. I was like, dude,
Mm-hmm.
that's a wild thought. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, anyway. So you said before we got on, you said you were playing Halo.
Yes, I was playing the old Halo 2. I love Halo. It's my favorite game. I could talk about it forever. We could literally have a whole podcast episode if people wanted to vote for it in the
Yeah,
comments. But I could
right,
just talk about Halo the whole time.
dude. Maybe you
Um,
should.
it's I just love the whole story, the lore behind it.
Hmm.
I'm kind of a Halo snob though. Once Bungie stopped making it and
Yeah.
343 took over, I don't like anything after 343 took over. I don't consider them part of the Halo story or the lore. I think it's like a one-off, just weird thing.
What
So
game?
I don't
Like
like those.
what game like began with them and ended with Bungie?
So Bungie did one, two, three, ODST, and Reach. So five of them.
Okay.
Um, Then they went out to make Destiny, and
Hmm.
343 started with four. So 343's made four, five, and now Infinite. And Infinite's pretty good, but four and five are ass. So they
Gotcha.
don't make up for Infinite being good.
Well, honestly, man, the last time I like when you talk about Halo, because let's be like everybody listening, like Zach plays Halo all the time, and
Yes.
I just honestly the last time I played Halo, I was in high school, and I did not grow up with like an Xbox, and
Mhm.
we got a PlayStation when they finally came out with like those like versions you could travel with, and so
Hmm.
my parents were like, you have a Nintendo, you don't need anything else, and so I
A
had
Nintendo.
no, for real, dude. The last game system I had before I moved out, like went to college, was a GameCube, and
Hmm.
yeah. So when I played Halo, so anybody knows, like I went to high school in Germany. My dad was in the Air Force, and I lived on a really small base called Simbach, which now belongs to the Army. There's no housing there anymore. But there used to be a teen center in the parking lot where the commissary was, which is the grocery store for those of you listening that aren't savvy to military lingo. But yeah, man, dude, we would have these lock-ins normally
Hmm.
during the summer, and we there was like one really big common room and like another that had like a pool table, and it was definitely a skiff at one point, which is like a secure
Big
part of
old
the
door.
yeah, exactly. And it's a big metal door. Yeah, you can see these massive hinges, and
Where they made
we
Master Chief.
yeah, no, for real. And we had one room where like we'd have like one room was just like five or six TVs going with like Halo, because like all the kids that had everything would show up with like their TVs and shit. Like they'd have like
Hmm.
they'd come with like a wagon and a skateboard, and then the other room would have like Tony Hawk going or something like that, and I'd just like stay up all night bumping like 3 6 Mafia, 50 Cent. You know what I mean? Like because this was back when Into Club was new, right? And just like stayed up all night and would play video games and play Halo and fuck around, man. It was a really good time, and yeah, we used to have those lock-ins a lot, dude. Just like 50 teenagers and two adults like watching us,
Yeah.
and like one of the dudes, Jamie, he used to work there. He'd be playing video games too and just get like buck wild. We'd go outside and play like tackle football and just
Hmm.
fuck each other up, dude. Yeah, like this is such a good time, man. But that's the last time I played Halo, so it's been like 2004 maybe.
Yeah, and so if you're saying 2004, that means you probably mostly played Halo 1, just Halo CE, the first one.
Pretty much, yeah.
Because Halo 2 came out in November of 2004, and then
Yeah.
Halo 3 was 2007.
Yeah, I've definitely
So,
played Halo 2 because I graduated in '05, and I remember when the new Halo came out, and this
mhm.
kid, Tim, that I was friends with, he lived across the street from us. He was like super big into Halo, and I remember him just like, "Oh, we could have another lock-in so we could play Halo," and so and of course we did, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's been forever, man. So like storylines, all that stuff, I have zero idea, and I know that's like
Yeah.
blasphemy for a millennial to be like, "I'm not that familiar with Halo," so kill me in the
Well,
comments. But yeah,
there's a lot of people who don't know a lot about Halo, even
yeah,
like of our generation. I'll be talking to like other people. Well, my buddy Tobin, he's the Navy recruiter. He's in the area, and we're talking to him, and he just never had an Xbox. He never got into it,
yeah,
so he doesn't know anything about Halo either.
yeah,
Um,
dude,
I've joked
Tobin.
with you.
Go ahead.
I said I've joked with you about how like we need to just like sit down and play Halo together because I would be like the perfect like narrator. I'd give you all like the
Be that guy,
backstory, the side stuff, the things that
right?
you wouldn't notice. Yeah,
Right.
it'd be
No, that
great.
would be pretty cool. Tobin makes me think of that scene from Ghostbusters, where is it Ghostbusters 2? I think it is, where they go to I think Venkman's got like a paranormal bookstore, and he's like, "I consulted Tobin's spirit guide," and it can't, it's kind of funny. Those random freaking thoughts. But yeah,
Yeah,
let's do it. Let's do our shameless plugs real quick, right? So,
let's get it.
I Came with Fire is sponsored by Red Clover Coffee. Red Clover Coffee is active duty military owned. They donate to a bunch of really awesome charities. So support them, us, and those charities by heading over there. And you can find them at redclovercoffee.com or through our promos highlight on our Instagram story. But use code Came with Fire at checkout for 10% off. I have ordered from them quite a few times. I know people who have ordered from them. Their African blends, their Blueberry Invasion is all really, really good. I also got their Blackberry Brandy recently. It's just, yeah, no, okay. But yeah, no, Red Clover Coffee Came with Fire at checkout for 10% off. Zach's chair is not a paid actor.
It is not.
And our second sponsor is Sheep's Clothing LLC. Sheep's Clothing LLC is apparel for people who are in the violent arts or disciplines. So whether it's MMA or shooting or survivors of violent circumstance. So that could be military member, law enforcement officers, EMTs, firefighters, and anybody who's survived some sort of violent circumstance. It is for you. If you would like some merch, they have flags, some pretty awesome patches. They have MMA gear. They honestly sell some really cool shit. But if you are interested, and we hope you are, head on over there and get something and use code FIRE10 at checkout for 10% off your purchase. But yeah, big shout out to Red Clover Coffee and Sheep's Clothing. We really appreciate you guys sponsoring us. So, like I said, Popcorn Podcast tonight. Zach, I am going to let you go first. This is 5
Sweet.
questions apiece. Neither of us know what we're going to ask. So at the end, don't be surprised when I'm just kidding. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Zach. You can start us
Yeah,
off.
so I've actually have 6 of them because I don't follow the rules.
Bruh.
And it's just
Bruh.
because the first one is just to kind of break the ice, even though you and I don't need to break the ice. We break bread every single day.
We do.
Um, I'm sure you're aware of the fuck, marry, kill type game. You pick 3 people. You gotta fuck
Oh,
one. You
no.
gotta marry one. You gotta kill one. Right. So I'm
Okay.
about to get us
Going Step
demonetized. We're on
Brothers on
some
this.
watch list. Yeah.
Probably. I'm
Fuck,
interviewing
marry,
you.
kill. Oh,
That's sometimes a useful exercise.
fuck, marry, kill. Oprah Winfrey, Michelle Obama, and Whoopi Goldberg.
Well, I'm not going to lie to you. Those are all terrible options. Uh,
For
and
each.
for each, yeah. And if I could, I'd take secret option 4 and kill myself.
Ah,
But
doesn't
we
exist.
can't because yeah, it's outside the
The
parameters of the
podcast
game.
needs you.
It does. All right, fuck Mary Kill. Well, I heard one somewhere like one day. I think Oprah has like this aversion to getting married, and
Hmm.
yeah, so I would just marry Oprah out of spite. and not to mention she's like rich. I'm pretty sure they're all rich. They all have to
Yes.
be rich.
What's
Um,
funny is like, so Oprah's probably always gotten whatever she wanted, and you would
mhm,
just make it so she couldn't get this one thing of not being married. So you
right.
just took it away from her.
I did, dude. The ultimate thing.
Yeah.
Married out of spite. Move
Yep.
over. Move over, Stedman. I think that's her boyfriend's name, or whatever he is to her.
I have no idea.
Servant. Being married to Oprah has to be kind of difficult, I feel like, in some ways. Uh, I guess I would take out Whoopi Goldberg because I can't stand The View. And then I just would end everybody's misery. And then I guess I'm getting with Michelle Obama because she's the only one left. And I guess you could say like getting with a first lady would be like you could put that on your resume, right?
I think so. It's
Graduated
like the
from
first point.
college, slept with first lady, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Don't
It's
come at
actually
us.
your name, then slept with first lady, then your email. So like
Mm.
before they even get to your contact info, that's where it goes.
Yeah, right. At sleptwithmichelleobama.com. No,
You make your
but
own handle.
right, yeah. Oh my God. Okay, what about you? Jesus,
Mine were the
terrible. We
same.
are. We're totally getting shadow banned now.
Perfect. No, mine were the exact same. I would marry Oprah because it's Oprah. Like I
Hmm.
feel like every morning I'd wake up and you get a new car. I'm like, thanks, Oprah, love you too. And then I just don't like Whoopi at all, so I guess. And Michelle Obama, like
Wow.
first lady.
Okay, the same.
So yeah,
Oh, well, that's not a surprise. So,
get out of my head.
yeah. Well, I would have to say too. You know, if you marry Oprah, I'm pretty sure she's like connected in
Yeah.
that way. So you might even end up, with the sweet release of death because, she just might make you some like sacrifice to Moloch or something.
Or
Who
you might
knows?
get immortality.
That's true, but at the cost of your soul. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Eternity
it's
in hell
true.
with Oprah, or eternity. You know what I mean? Like I don't know, man. You have to think about these things, Zach.
Do I get a new car every morning?
What do you? Where are you gonna drive it? The other
I
parts
don't
of
know.
hell?
Yeah, and I go
That
dab up Satan. He's like, "What's up, dude? What'd you get this morning from Oprah?"
yeah
Because he's probably
yeah.
married to her too.
Mm, I don't know. I don't. I think I'd have to not do that.
That's fair.
Yeah, probably a
We
good
we
call.
will we will move on. What is what is your question for me? Your
Oh,
actual legit
oh, my
question? Because
actual
mine,
question.
because
Oh
yeah, because
man,
mine is lame.
dude, we're going right in.
Oh,
Okay,
jeez.
well, yeah. What like is your next question serious or is it like slightly fun?
Yeah, my other
It's serious.
five are relatively serious.
All right, cool. Here we go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're following Fuck Mary Kill. Uh, one of the things that I learned, like basically through like social media, was that there's all these people that were deployed to like Iraq and Afghanistan over like the past
Hmm.
20 years, and
Hmm.
they've had these like really weird encounters. And I'm first off, I'm always really interested to listen to other military members and the stories they have of like the supernatural or like the weird, because if you've ever been like posted somewhere, well, first off, like everywhere on these military bases that you can get stationed at is super old for the most part, right?
Yes.
A lot of these buildings were built like 60 years ago. It's very rare to find like a brand new building on base, and if it is, it's normally something like a community center or like a new gym or something like that. So
Hmm.
like legitimately, there's some like caserns in Germany that were literally built by the Wehrmacht in World War II, and the U.S. Army just like knocked off the swastikas and eagles and all that stuff, and just uses them. You know what I mean? So it's kind of neat to look at. Like these buildings are literally like built in the 1930s, and so there's a
Yeah.
lot of history. But so they're all really old. But what do you think of if you've heard of this, and if you haven't, I can like kind of give you some examples. But what do you
Yeah.
think of the alleged accounts from U.S. service members who say they've encountered giants, jinn, and other otherworldly creatures while deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan?
So I've never heard of them like encountering giants.
Mm-hmm.
but this is actually kind of interesting because I recently have gone down like a rabbit hole in YouTube of like
Yeah.
watching YouTube videos of
Hmm.
um, VWAT era veterans who were uh, like in Afghanistan or Iraq and stuff, and they would like see some weird stuff going on, like spiritual, like ghost type things and stuff. And one of them was like, I
Like
guess,
gins. You know
what's
what
a jinn?
a gin?
No.
So gin, and if you're listening and I'm incorrect, please correct me. But gin is like the origin of the word genie, right? And so like the genie that like we've all come to know, like you rub the
Mm-hmm.
lamp, three wishes, is not what that gets origin. Of course, like every origin is not what we've come to read. It's not Robin Williams, in the cave with Jafar and Aladdin, right?
Wait, it's not?
No. So like jinn, um, can be like they can be evil, right? And
Yeah.
they're trickster entities as well, right? So but they're represented a lot of different ways. I've seen them represented as like fire jinn, like trickster jinn. They like to mimic from like what I've read about them, which is really creepy, like the concept of a mimic. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
so that's what I mean, right? So it kind of sounds like what you're talking about there, like some of these weird like spirit things. But anyway, go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah, mine wasn't more so like a jinn or like a genie, I guess. Mine was more like I watched a video. It's mostly just like I guess ghosts, but I
Right.
watched a video where these like army guys were in some like hill and they're supposed to like guard that hill, and the like Afghan national that was with them was telling them that, oh, this is the same hill that like thousands of Russians died on when the Russians were
Right.
here, and
Right.
it's the same hill like like thousands of years before that this group died here, and it's the same hill. Like it's a hill, obviously, that you want to take for strategic purposes in that
Sure.
area. And I guess just generations of different militaries who showed up there and just died in mass there.
Yeah.
And these like I guess Army soldiers who were there when they're like sleeping, they'd randomly get woken up by some dude like yelling at them in Russian, or like they would see like a Russian dude like clearly like in Russian like equipment and stuff like walk by or like walk through walls and a whole bunch of
Yeah.
weird stuff. And
I've
I'm just
heard stuff
assuming
like
it's
that
just
too,
been
where they've heard like Russian radio chatter, and
yes, that comes up too.
right, Russian radio chatter.
Yeah,
Dude, I just want to say like, how demoralizing would that be to like being woke up in the middle of the night and you're in just like the hole in the ground that you dug, okay,
yeah,
and there's a like a half blown up Russian soldier standing there yelling at you, like
yeah.
whoa, you know what I mean? Like
Well,
that just
just
would just be like so like creepy, like just completely mind boggling, and then
yeah.
like holy shit, like this dude is still here as a ghost. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like morale
Well, I
wise,
feel
like
Yeah, I feel like that whole area though has just got so much death that
oh
there's got
yeah,
to be so many spirits and stuff. They always say Afghanistan's where nations go to die.
right,
So,
the graveyard
um,
of empires.
yeah, no one's ever yet conquered it except I
Hmm.
guess the Afghanis who are just still there doing their thing. So,
Right.
um, it'd be weird. I'd also be like a huge. I just think being there. I've only been through Afghanistan, and I was only there for like a day and a half. It was for a flyaway mission,
It
and
was
I
like
just
a
flew in.
Bagram or something.
Yeah, I just flew in and was there for like a day and a half, and then left. So that's all I
Hmm.
know. But from like friends who have been there and stuff, like I feel like just knowing that that's where nations go to die, or that's where all empires fail, like even as and we left there, right? So it's kind of like it's like man, even the US couldn't do it. It's like that's to me kind of
Yeah.
like, well, damn.
I
But
think like that whole like we lost idea, like we lost on some fronts, and then on others like not. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Um, but anyway, that's a whole nother like debate. But yeah, like
I
so one of the stories I've seen is I guess these guys like got sent out and they went into this cave and they like a giant came out and attacked and killed US soldiers. And
wow.
there have been US soldiers that have come out and said like this has happened. And there's a bunch of other weird stuff like the like Jin. like encountering these mimic or like trickster spirits that try to like get you, like pretend to be wounded, like, one of the like a wounded person, and like to trick you off into like a valley or something like that. And
Huh.
but right,
Kind of
but
like
I
a
mean there's
skinwalker.
I get no, because Jinn aren't like a skinwalker, but like I guess
Yeah,
that like
yeah.
element, that like trickster element is present,
'Cause
you know.
don't
But
skinwalkers like they'll be like help me
they
or
do, yeah.
whatever,
That's what I'm saying. That's
and
like
like you go to
that's
help
like
them
the
and then
yeah, that's like the trickster element to it. But
yeah,
they're
yeah.
not like skinwalkers and Jinn are not related, and they're not, they did not come into being in the way that each other did. Like skinwalkers are like what they're like a person that ate human flesh and then became a
Yeah,
skinwalker,
yeah.
and so
Hmm.
that's not like that's not the same. But the trickster element is there. But yeah, I've seen too like that TV show that used to be on HBO, True Blood. One of the have you ever seen True Blood?
Yeah, I've seen True Blood.
Right. So one of in the later seasons, one of the characters, Terry, the one that is like the combat vet with like
Hmm.
he has post traumatic stress. He's like haunted by like a fire spirit. Do you remember seeing that?
No, I only watched like a season or so of it,
Yeah,
and I only watched it sparingly.
it's a really weird show.
Yeah.
But anyway, now that was like the first time that I remember seeing anything like out and like for public viewing of like U.S. service member like. And obviously this is totally fictitious like that story, but
Hmm.
there are people that have said that, and right, and that exists, right, because like people have come out and said like, hey, I had these experiences. But I was just wondering what you thought, like, I believe people when they say they have experiences like that, because I've been
Yeah.
in plenty of really old buildings on base and had some strange experiences. Not to mention, there's all kinds of really odd stuff that happens around military installations. I mean, dude,
Hmm.
uh, so when I graduated high school, I moved to the UK with my parents because my dad got another assignment the year I graduated high school. And long
Hmm.
story short, they basically let me give me the option that I could either go to school and live with him still, or have a job and still live with him. And I asked if I could take like a gap year and live with them, and like because I wanted to like go around and see the UK, and I did. But I ended up working at the Shopette on base, which is like the gas
Hmm.
station and convenience store
Yeah.
for people who don't know. And
Get your tornadoes.
what's that?
Get your tornadoes.
Dude, yeah, I don't even think tornadoes were a thing back then. This was back when the Shopette still rented DVDs, and
No.
yeah, and but anyway, there was one of the managers there. He was retired, and his name was Gary. But I learned like he was always a little strange, not like mean or anything
Hmm.
like that, but just like kind of off. And he always dressed way nicer than everybody else. Like all the other managers that worked there, like they dressed differently than us. Like we had like the AFI shirts, you know what I mean? Like had to wear like
Yeah.
khakis or jeans or whatever. But they always had to wear like some sort of like business casual attire. But like Gary would like. Dude, it was like when I would go visit my grandfather at the BMW dealership he owned. Like he smelled like cologne, had a tie on, had a nice watch, had a jacket, had his hair done, like all this stuff. You know what I mean? Like he came in, he was like, zoot suited, dude. And
This is my
anyway,
shop it.
no, for real, dude. Yeah, and he would like, and I hated when he would come to the counter and like help us check out people, because he was always like wanting to have a conversation. And when
Yeah.
he's like the cashier that'll bag your Snickers bar. You're like, dude, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Anyway, but I found out one day that he'd had an encounter with like UFOs, and I shouldn't say encounter, like his whole life had encounters, and they increased
Hmm.
when he joined the Air Force. And basically, I asked him one day, like flat out, I was like, dude, I want to know about this because I heard you told another employee about your experiences. And at first, he was kind of pissed. He was like, he's like, I don't really want to talk about that, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
was like, okay, like, I respect that. I was like, I actually have a really big interest in this kind of thing. Like, if you don't want me to tell anybody else, I won't, and I
If
didn't have
anything,
the,
I feel like that adds merit to his stories because
for
he didn't
sure,
want to like
for
talk
sure.
about them.
Yeah, and he did end up telling me, and I did not tell anybody like at the store when I still worked there what he said.
Yeah.
But basically, what he said was, as a kid growing up, he was abducted, and he said that they removed like a tumor, what he thought was a tumor from his leg. They said was going to kill him, but in return for him having this like medical procedure done on him by these aliens, he had to go back and tell like humanity essentially that there were two races of aliens. This is actually the first time I'd ever heard of like the whole like grays and whites thing. And but he's like, there's two species of aliens. The grays, he's like, they try to help humanity, and the whites, he's like, they're trying to like take out humanity. And he's like, they would visit me and told me I needed to find a way to tell humanity what's coming and that the end of the world, dude. And it's wild because some of this stuff he told me is like stuff that people are talking about now. Now I'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
But he said that every once in a while they would visit him after this incident where they removed the tumor from his leg, and he said that they would take him up and like show him his house from the sky, and like take him around the part of Alaska that he lived and like show him like the mountains and stuff like that. And he
Hmm.
said that it kind of stopped as he got older, but when he joined the Air Force, he said that it like really ramped up, and he said that they started like showing him like visions of the future, and that he needed to,
Huh.
that basically he now that he was an adult, he needed to figure out a way to tell people about what was going to happen. And so he, according to him, and I've actually looked him up. I'm not going to say his name on the air, but I've looked him up on Amazon to see if he did write the book he said he was going to, or if rather that his book was published. And I've never found anything, so I don't know if maybe
Hmm.
something happened to him or what. But anyway, he said that essentially that this race of aliens was going to come and trick humanity into trusting them, and showing us all of these old technologies that these ancient civilizations used to know, which is totally something that we talk about now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that
Yeah, for
that's what they
sure.
were going to use to garner our trust, and then they were going to turn against us, and that they were like flesh eaters and all this stuff, and they were like going to, yeah, it was pretty crazy. But he like dead serious, like not fucking around, telling me this stuff. And he's like, you could just tell he wasn't like trying to tell me to like scare me, or was just like mad that I
Hmm.
asked, and was just like giving me a bunch of BS. This was like an hour conversation we had in like his office. And like, why waste my time for an hour, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
but anyway, it kind of like explained why to me, like why he was kind of just odd, you know what I mean? Not in a bad way, just kind
Yeah.
of odd,
Yeah.
and but yeah, so like there's an kind of an extreme example. But like the military members have some pretty wild experiences when it comes to just like the supernatural in general, whether it's like ghosts, or it's because even I've responded to a ghost before on duty. And
Hmm.
I have two stories about that. But anyway, and UFO stuff for sure.
We used to get 911 calls from buildings that didn't exist
Yeah,
anymore when I was at
yeah,
Kadena.
yeah. Oh, dude,
And it
Kadena
wasn't,
is one of the most haunted
yeah,
uh, places.
it wasn't just like just a random phone call and then nothing there. Like, no, you would pick up the phone, you'd be like, B Doc, how can I help you? Or like, where's your emergency or whatever.
Right.
And someone would be like breathing on the other end, or someone would say something in like Japanese, or they'd be like, I need you to get here now. But it'd be like really like muffled or like not very like clear. And then it would disconnect or the phone would turn off or whatever.
Did you
Um,
guys ever
and
like
then,
save those recordings? Because like if they're calling like your
yeah,
911 line, yeah. Oh wow.
yeah. So they're all saved and you can like listen to some of them are really weird.
There is some stuff from Kadena on YouTube I've seen.
Yeah. There's the Gate 6 ghost.
Yeah,
I remember when I first got there, they were saying like Gate 6 like extremely haunted and
yeah.
like there's a ghost there. And I actually had a time where I was at Gate 6, just real tired. Gate 6 was a one man post, and
Mm-hmm.
it's an entrance to a housing area that's off base. There's nothing important there really.
Yeah.
Housing, I guess, but like not like military asset wise. And it was way late at night, like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like nodding off, just having a hard time staying awake, all that type of stuff. I called like a patrol over, like bring me like a Red Bull or something to get through it, but it's just
Yeah.
nothing was working. And I remember kind of just like sitting there staring out, and I kept kind of like nodding off, and then I I must have fallen asleep or something. Which yes, Security Force not supposed to fall asleep with your gun, yada yada yada, whatever. I know
I
that
have
I
to read you
had
your
to have
rights
fallen
now.
asleep, or I'm the first sergeant. It's fine. Or the uh,
First
like
art.
I lost enough consciousness to like not be there fully or something. But someone whispered in my ear, like, "Hey, wake up! Something's coming." And I was like, "Huh?" And then right as I did that, my flight chief was driving up. And I was like, "Oh, what the heck?" And I thought that the rest of the night I was wide awake. I was not tired anymore. But
Bro,
that
that was
was
like,
wild.
dude, that's like some old like World War II soldier, like just post World
Yeah,
War II. He's like, oh, watching my brother, looking out for him, dude. That's weird.
yeah. But it's like I whenever I think of that, I get chills now just thinking about it.
Mm.
But I wasn't the only like. What's weird is I never really told anyone else that, and I remember you're at his base for like years. It was like years
Mm-hmm.
later, I was talking to someone else, and they were like, I kept like hearing someone whispering when I was at like gate 6, but I kept thinking it was the radio. I turn off the radio, and I would still hear whispering. So like, I was like, wait a minute, you heard whispering at gate 6? Like someone whispered in my ear at gate 6. So it's like a
Oh, see, that's kind of cool,
yeah. Well, gate 6 is known to be haunted, but apparently that ghost is friendly. He'll help you out.
well, that's
He'll tell you
good.
when your boss is coming. So
Right? The good for whoever that is. Props.
yeah.
No, there's a I had another friend when I was at Malmstrom who was at Kadena too, um,
Mhm.
and he showed us a video like from like the actual like Gate Shack video
Yeah.
recording of a ghost straight up, man. It's still on YouTube. It is like going from like one Delta barrier to the other, like back and
Hmm.
forth. Have you seen that video?
Yeah, that's the gate 6 ghost. I know
Okay, dude,
exactly which one
that's
you're
one of
talking
the
about.
best videos I've
Yeah,
ever seen, like of
yeah.
any sort of like spiritual activity, because like dude, that's just the freaking Gate Shack
Hmm.
camera. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And let's be honest,
yeah.
man. There ain't nobody going in there and dicking around with this camera. You know what I mean? Like the alarm monitor, the Death Star, none of them are screwing
And
around with this camera. You know what I mean? Like,
it's not like a high quality like
no,
you couldn't
exactly.
edit the
Like,
camera anyways. It's like a
no,
live feed. It's stuck. Yeah,
exactly. So, like, it's just like, that that's legitimate.
yeah,
It's just like I know like how many gate shacks have ever been posted at, how many cameras
yep.
are out there. It's like, dude, no one's dicking around. That's a real video, and it's wild too because like there's still traffic. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
the people like in the shack like watching because like somebody, if I remember right from the video, somebody saw it out there like when they were standing outside and they came in and they rewound the video footage and pulled it up and looked at it and like holy shit,
Hmm.
you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so, dude, that's one of the best videos I've ever seen of something.
Yeah.
That's at Kadena.
Kadena had a bunch of weird stuff. We'd
Yeah.
have CGs, contract guards. They're
Mm-hmm.
local Japanese guys who like work with us and stuff. They're mostly there to be like interpreters, but they
Mm-hmm.
would work the gate with you and a whole bunch of other stuff. Um, but there was one post called Samurai One, and they would
Was that the
it was
flight
be a
chief?
yeah, it was like the CG flight chief,
Oh.
and he would usually be out in the munitions area. And I
Mm-hmm.
guess one day he was out there at night in the munitions. It's like the size of Kadena Air Base again, like it's huge.
Oh wow.
And he was out there just driving around doing his normal checks or whatever. And he swears up and down that there was like a dude standing in the middle of like the road, just staring at him as he's like coming down this hill. And so he like stopped and like turned on his like light, his spotlight, and he's like looking at it and stuff. And then he gets out of the car and he's like yelling at him, and this dude just runs into the into the jungle, just like leaves. So he calls it in.
Mm-hmm.
They bring out like canine. They can't find anything. They never find this dude or whatever. But that guy resigned like that, like at the end of his shift. He's like, I'm not doing
Whoa.
this anymore. And like the Japanese are very spiritual
He
people. Like
probably
they
thought it
believe in
was like a
spiritual
yokai or
stuff.
something.
He's like, and he quit that day. And he was the Samurai One flight chief. Like it's paid well, good hours, like working for the
Yeah.
U.S. government, like all this stuff. And he just said that ain't it. Bounced.
That's wild, man. That
Yeah.
for real. That's like throwing away a career over something like that. That's
Yep.
pretty serious.
Like I ain't
We
doing it.
when I was in Montana one night I was on mids pretty often when I was a brand new airman, and one evening my buddy and I, we were in the weapons storage area. We were posted together, sitting in a Humvee, and we are over in like some storage part of the storage area where like there was all these old like conventional storage like garages as they look like, and
Mhm.
we're just sitting there, and then all of a sudden it felt like somebody jumped onto the top of our Humvee. So we jumped out thinking that like somebody had parked like a building over, got on top of their Humvee through the turret, like walked across the city. Yeah, I was like dicking around with us, which is
Yeah.
total airman bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we like jumped out, dude. No one was there, man. Like the second like it hits, like doom, we're like, what the fuck? And, like looked up at the turret. Like I kind of like turned my head to like look back through the turret, you know, and jumped. We both jumped out, and we were parked like right in the middle of the building. And these are just like really, really long. Like they look like storage units. Like if you go to like a
Mhm.
storage, you know, like a storage unit off base, and
Yeah.
so there was no way somebody could have like jumped on the Humvee, jumped back over, you know, onto the roof and like took off or like jumped off and then ran one way or the other. And we were like, what the fuck? You know, so we drove away and we drove over to like the opposite side of the storage area. And there's like this really, really old tower in the storage area. And no one uses it anymore. It has been used since like the Cold War era. And then
Mhm.
the lights on the inside of it started like going off. And then we drove over there, and it looked like somebody was walking around the base of it with a flashlight too, which made no
Ugh.
sense. And that's why we drove over there. And we went over there, and the old like what's it called, like the power board, you know what I mean, for like the out, what's it called, you know what I'm talking about, the fuse box was underneath
Yeah.
it, and dude, it was just wide open, wide open. And it, like I said, this thing was like 30 years old. Like, why wouldn't we be messing around with it? It had nothing to do with, you know, could like, I don't know, could somebody have been like under there, like flicking it on and off? Like, I don't even know if like that would work, but it was just wide open. So we always
It's
just
not
thought
even
it was,
connected.
yeah, I just thought it was really, really weird. But that's, you know, I've
It's
had a
just a
couple of really strange experiences like that.
it's just an old Cold War ghost doing his
Yeah,
job. He's
yeah,
the electrician. He's trying to fix the tower.
looking out for the Ruskies.
He's stuck in his loop.
Yeah, man. I believe it, dude.
That's wild.
Especially in a place like that where, you know, what your garden has a lot of energy coming off of it. You know what I mean? So
Hmm. Yeah, no, I didn't know much about jinns or that they were genies and stuff, but I'll also look more
yeah,
into it.
they're not
I,
genies the way that like I
yeah, yeah,
said. It's not like, oh yeah, they're these benevolent sort of spirits that just give you three wishes. That's not what they are.
yeah.
Like
Yeah, no, I
they're
get you.
like, I think it's kind of like akin to go back to like your Skinwalker reference, to where you're like
Hmm.
technically not supposed to say the word as well.
Uh, not supposed to like you're not supposed to whistle at night or something. Whistle
Yeah,
into the darkness.
whistle into the darkness. Yep,
Yeah,
I think it's your turn.
interesting. I'll have to look up jinns and stuff. You ready for your next question there, Mr. Gresham?
Is the Pope Catholic? Yes.
No, that's not the. He's actually Mormon. He just doesn't want to come out and say it.
Wrong.
Let's see here. All right. So, do you believe? All right. So we're gonna go back in time. It's the morning of the attack on Pearl Harbor. Okay.
Oh.
Uh, you are from this time. You're an expert F-15 pilot, currently like on a training mission or whatever, right? And for some reason, you get like sucked up through a wormhole, and you end up the morning of Pearl Harbor, and you're flying like right over the Japanese fleet as like they're about to take off and go attack Pearl Harbor.
I'm in an F
You,
15.
yeah, you're an F-15
Oh shit.
pilot,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and you just went back in time. You're
Okay.
now like several thousand feet above like
Yeah.
the Japanese Navy, right?
Yeah.
Who's
Yeah.
about to launch this attack. For this scenario, you have unlimited ammo and unlimited fuel. Do you
Okay.
think you, as a single F-15, could stop the attack?
Yes.
How so? What do you think? You don't think that one of these zeros are just going to ram into you? You don't think a random shell's going to hit you? You don't.
I mean, those that probability exists, right? You know,
Yeah.
it's totally within the realm of possibility. But do
Mhm.
I think like all right? Let's just say this like off the bat. I don't know how many Japanese like aircraft carriers or like escort ships there were.
I
I also don't know
think there
how
was
many. Don't know how
I think
many
there was
of.
four carriers,
Mhm.
and like I want to say there was like six or seven destroyers.
Right. I feel like with the munitions that an F-15 can carry, and then considering, I put it this way, you could be in and out and blow up those aircraft carriers or do enough damage to the decks to where they couldn't get the aircraft off of them. You know what I
Oh,
mean? And they couldn't even catch you because you could go out, right, go in, do what you need to do, and leave the area and come back. You know what I mean?
hmm
So I feel like you're not going to get hit
you're
with
moving at this like speed of
absolutely
sound.
right. You're not going to get hit more than likely with some sort of like anti-aircraft shell. You're not going to get hit by. You're definitely
Yeah.
not going to get. I mean, I feel like right. Should obviously everything's possible, but you're not going to get shot down by some zero. You know what I mean?
hmm
Not to mention, if you have unlimited, like this is a fun scenario. Like if you have unlimited
Yeah.
ammo, like you're just fucking like
Yeah.
you're firing off fucking Signwider missiles. You know what I mean? Just like taking
One
out
Fox 2.
exactly like Fox Infinity, and you're just going. Dude, I honestly, yeah, I feel like you could. I feel like you could. Like I said, you could
Yeah.
either sink those ships, or like obviously they're under attack. They're going to start launching aircraft to protect the
For
carrier
sure.
group.
Yeah. But
Make
I
it to
feel like
where
to
that they can't
them,
even land again. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And
I feel like
so
to
yeah, I
them
feel like
though,
you
like with
could.
their technology, like an F-15 to them at that time would be like a UFO to them. They had no
Mhm.
idea what the heck you were.
Right.
You like a what
You'd be so loud too, man. Like so much louder than
yeah,
anything that they.
yeah. The was like I think like the fastest World War II like prop plane like maxed out like what like 300 something miles an hour, like
Probably. Yeah.
like
Not,
like
not even
for
close.
300
Not even
350,
close. Yeah.
and this F-15 is gonna come screeching by screaming at like
Right.
1300 1400.
Exactly, dude.
It's
Strike
gonna
you.
cause a sonic boom and just all their
Dude,
ears pop.
exactly. Dude, I just feel like you really could. You could do that.
Yeah,
Like you wouldn't
with
even have to sink the
ammo
fleet.
for
Like you
sure.
could take out. Oh yeah, with unlimited ammo,
Yeah,
obviously. Like you like I said, you could either sink those ships or you could damage them to the point where they can't carry out their mission,
yeah,
and whatever aircraft ended up launching could not land again. You know what I mean? So
yeah. See, because I was thinking about it, and I kind of agree with you. There is like you and the F-15, like the zeros aren't the threat, like at
no,
all. Like you
no,
could theoretically completely ignore them.
right.
They're not going to intercept you. They can't lock on. They don't have missiles. Nothing's locking onto you.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
unless they magically get behind you and you don't just freaking cobra them or something, like there's no way
Yeah, or you
that
had like
you're
an
gonna.
air to air collision or something like that. Like it would
Well,
have to be like pilot error. I almost feel like that would be
uh,
the biggest
yeah,
like point of failure.
yeah. This is gonna be my ignorance, or I guess maybe I don't understand. I guess like physics, or whatever. If it's so, like obviously bullets when they leave an object, they're traveling the speed of the object plus the propellant of the like projectile, so they
Right,
go like faster, right? It's
right.
like if you're going 100 miles an hour and you shoot something that goes 100 miles an hour, it's now going 200 because it was already moving, right?
I'm pretty sure that's sound physics. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. If if a zero somehow got behind an F-15 and went to go shoot his gun, does the F-15 have like the force to just outrun the bullet?
I think so, dude. I almost wonder if like the
Like
jet
can
wash
it just leave? Oh
or
yeah, the jet wash is
like I feel like the jet wash too would just fuck the bullet all up, man. You know what I mean?
probably yeah.
Because you gotta admit, like the cannons that those like these fighter jets today have, like those
Oh yeah,
rounds. Aside from the fact,
they're
I'm pretty
huge.
sure the rounds are bigger, right? But
Hmm.
they're moving way faster too. You
Oh
know
yeah,
what I mean? Like I'm
yeah,
pretty sure, like dude, like you're just like God mode out there, F-15. Just like literally, yeah.
yeah. No, that
That
F-15 would destroy, and it would
that
like.
this
And I was
also
thinking even if it
This
didn't
also
have
sounds like one of
know.
those like B movies that like somebody did and just like winds up on the shelf at Blockbuster. It's just like I don't know what you'd call it, like Ronin F-15 or something. Like, and you're just that's what the whole impetus of the movie is just fucking up Japanese ships, and like I would watch it just to
F-15,
see. Yeah,
past Eagle.
yeah, past Eagle. Yeah, no, for sure. Dude,
I would be so terrified though if like even if not even just as like a Japanese pilot or whatever, just take any World War II pilot, like take the best World War II pilot, and he's just cruising and an F-15 shows up. Like one, do you even
you would
see
not
it?
know
It's
what
just
was
gonna
going
be a
on.
blur, and that's even if it even showed you. You would just blow up. You just
Yeah, because I mean,
explode
I feel like
out of the sky.
if you were that person, you were that pilot. First off, like once you were done just unleashing hell, right? What do you do? Like, what's the rest of the question? Like, do you magically find your wormhole and go back and see what? Because you've just changed the course of history in a lot of
Imagine you
ways,
go back and the F-15 doesn't exist.
right?
Like
Dude, no, for real,
you
like
go
the
like jet
Jap.
engines didn't even happen.
I bet
Like
you, bro. I bet money. Okay, that if that happened, that whole incident would somehow, by the end of the war, right, be classified, okay, as
oh
like
yeah.
some like eventually like wind up in the archives of Project Blue Book, and
Hmm.
it would be a classified incident, and you would never know about, no one would ever know about Pearl Harbor. There'd be no stupid movie with Ben Affleck, right?
I
There
like
would
that
be
movie.
no, it's terrible. It's a terrible movie. They took Pearl Harbor and they turned it into a love triangle. It's stupid. But
I
anyway,
still enjoy it.
nope, trash. It's ass. I would no. I would rather. I'm not gonna say that. But
That's fine.
anyway, yeah, it's terrible. But like I guarantee it would be classified as some sort of, like you said, like unidentified flying object
100%.
thing. You know what I mean? That like eventually when the Japanese military leadership ended up talking to the American military leadership, like at the end of the war, like they're gonna
Hmm.
do. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, the Japanese would be like, "What
yeah,
did you hit us with? Like, how did
dude,
you
like
know?" And the U.S. is
exactly,
like,
like
"I don't know what
Emperor
you're talking about."
Yamamoto is like talking to Douglas MacArthur, being like, "Oh, Uriwa, is it a UFO?" Oh, like just trying to like tell him, explain. They're like, what the fuck are you talking about?" And they're like,
So it's like,
yeah, they're
"What
like, bro,
partner? I don't know."
we were literally going to fuck your navy up. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And right, and just be like, but
and this
something,
triangle thing,
this
it
exactly,
sounded
like
like a very loud eagle just
right,
came out of nowhere.
right, and like what would he say? Be
It
like,
was
oh,
launching
oh,
like
yeah,
it was.
that's our secret. Yeah, we know, or you'd be like, what?
We have hundreds of those.
Yeah, exactly. Don't do it again. We'll bring it back. You saw what we did twice, right? Yeah. No, but for real, like that, I think 100% an F-15 could save the day.
What if it's just a little quick follow on? Like, what if UFOs today are just future pilots getting stuck in wormholes, coming back and freaking out?
It's a thought I've had before, man.
Yeah, they're
I
just
do.
us from the future coming back and
Well,
visiting.
so the whole like us from the future thing, I don't really like that idea because
Hmm.
I don't know. It's just like why, you know what I mean? And if you
Yeah,
figured out how to travel back in time, like what's the point? You know what I mean?
we've had this discussion before. I think on
We
the
have,
previous ones, like if
we
you could
did,
control time, that means you have to control all matter. If you
right,
can control all matter, why would you go back in time?
right, and
Like,
the
there's
whole
no point.
idea that like all of time and space exists all at once. So like,
Yeah.
you know, but anyway, I have considered though, right, that all of the Tic Tac UFO, the Commander Fravor incident that's been very
Yeah.
popularized.
Hmm.
And again, I think we said this on another episode, but I think that there's a high likelihood that that is actually like technology that our government owns. And
Hmm.
what better way to test out its effectiveness than
Against our
against
best
the most
aviator.
advanced, yeah, conventional, right,
Hmm.
military assets that we
Known.
have,
The,
right?
the
Known
best
military,
known asset. Yeah.
exactly, man. And it's not. It wouldn't even be the first time we've done shit like that.
Hmm.
So it just to me is like that. It could very well be that, and then but there's an incident. I wish I could remember the name of the submarine, but it was a French submarine that took photos of an underwater unidentified. Well, so I'll say this too.
Submersible.
Well, yeah, yeah, Ocean Gate, but the U.S. government has, that the moniker, the UAP, right, unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Yeah.
Everybody, is pretty well known like what a UFO is, right? But
Yeah.
they've changed the acronym UAP
Hmm.
from unidentified aerial phenomenon to unidentified anomalous phenomenon, right?
So it can fit
Because
all.
can fit all. It's like a catch-all, right? So
Yeah.
this, when I say UAP, I mean it in the unidentified anomalous phenomenon way,
Hmm.
right? So this French submarine took photos of a UAP coming out of the ocean, and
Mm.
so it's like that whole theory too of like, well, maybe they're under the water also, and then now we're like getting down that rabbit hole that we want to go down of like Admiral Byrd and Operation High Jump in Antarctica and all
Yeah.
that stuff, like the whole Hollow Earth theory, and
Yeah. I
which
was just about to say
is
the
super
Hollow Earth. Like
interesting
there's a
to me,
whole
man.
thing
But
inside.
yeah, so
Yeah.
but I those are the things that I think about when I think about that like the um these tic tac UFOs, some of this other shit that these Navy pilots and Air Force pilots are seeing, that they, there's the likelihood of it being technology that we have that's just like black, like black ops, totally, like you
Hmm.
can't, no one
No one
knows.
knows.
Yeah, like six people know, and the pilot they shoot in the head when it's done flying it or whatever. If it's even manned, you know what I'm
Thank you
saying?
for service.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, and but I think that's a pretty plausible answer. That's what
Yeah.
that is. It's government tech that nobody knows about.
Yeah. No, it is. It's
You
a
think
plausible answer.
You think an F-15 could save the day though?
Oh yeah, 100%. You could have had three F-15s and won the whole war. One in
Yeah.
the Pacific,
Oh
just
yeah.
one. One in the
Yeah.
Pacific, one in over Europe, and just another one just defending America in a constant like
Bro.
holding pattern.
Yeah. No, for real, man. Like if you just like you sent an F-15 on a bombing run through Berlin, game over. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like it's just so
so over.
wild, man. I've also had this like in the past. I've had this
It's
thought
the
of
insane
like,
jump of technology, though.
no, it is. It is. Like
Like it's wild.
it is wild to think about. Because I've had that thought before. It's like, you ever seen that fucking meme where it's Merry and Pippin from Lord of the Rings, and it said, "What if it's something like, what if there was a Lord of the Rings where everything is the same except Merry and Pippin have a sniper rifle?" And it was like, dude, and it's like one of them is, I don't remember which one of them is on the gun, but the other one is got this like the rangefinders, and it's like they're in the bushes. You know what I mean? It's like,
I
bro,
just
what if?
I
You
just
know?
imagine like oh headshots. What about second
All day.
headshots?
What about second headshots? Right? Dude,
Can you
you just
imagine
like,
being the what's the I just forgot his name. It's not Gandalf. It's the evil wizard. What's
oh,
his name?
Saruman?
Yeah, he's
Sauron and
like up there on
Saruman?
his tower, like
Mm-hmm.
and then just 50 cal.
Exactly, dude. Just pink mist. You know what I mean? That, dude, and it's perfect too because like they're just sitting there riding Treebeard, and he's got a sniper rifle. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the perfect cover and concealment, dude. My cover and concealment
Jeez.
moves with me. It is my
It is a
ride.
tree.
It's a tree. That's what I'm saying. It's an int. You know what I mean? My cover and
You
concealment,
don't
like, we
even
just
know where
blend
I
in
am.
with the rest of the background.
They need to make a. They need to make
Orcs
a
gone.
yeah. Well, I feel like in numbers they could eventually get overran, but like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you'd have to know where they are and eventually get there.
Well,
But
it's like
yeah,
you use the sniper rifle like strategically. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
you said, you get
just
close to
just pop off
Isengard.
the leaders.
Exactly. You
Yeah,
get on the outskirts of Isengard, and then boom, you take out
yeah,
Saruman. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And then it's like, you know,
It's like
but
when Sauron, I think he was like about to kill, and then it's like no man can defeat me, and then it's like a little bit, and then
oh,
stabs him.
the
Right?
Witch King.
Yeah, yeah. And he just
Hmm.
stabs him or whatever.
Hmm.
Imagine he's like, no man could defeat me, and then Pippin's like a mile out and just
Yeah, exactly. I'm no man. I'm a hobbit, dude. That's
they're
awesome.
like they
Could
got
you
like
imagine like you've got Merry and Pippin on one of the like turrets at Minas, or not Minas Tirith? What's it? Helm's Deep, just like taking out orcs as they're approaching, dude. Yeah, you mean the
just
M2, just like, you know,
just one osprey just comes
right?
in.
Yeah, yeah, dude. How amazing would that be though?
They
I
need
always
to make they need to make. They have to do it now. Someone needs to
Hmm.
make some really bad, poorly edited, like Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit movies, and like just input like a bunch of Vietnam era like weapons.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Just Legolas, instead of a bow and arrow, he's got a 60, you know,
yeah,
just on his hip,
yeah.
just like Rambo. Yeah, that'd be epic. I've
Instead
always
of
thought
Gandalf,
like,
instead of Gandalf flying in on the eagles, he comes in on Hueys.
right, just Fortunate Son starts playing. Dun, dun. Yeah,
The
on the
Eye of
mo- the
Sauron's like freaking out
right
because he's
on the
about to be
morning
napalmed.
on the morning of the fifth day, look to the east, and then it's like you just hear everyone just stops what they're doing. Yeah, like this is it, and then here comes all these Hueys up over the side of the mountain, and they just got Riders of Rohan painted on the side of the Huey. You know what I mean, dude? That's pretty sick. I like that.
Ugh,
But
we got to get it done.
we do. We need to make a lot of money and make that into a movie.
Yeah.
But
So people need
I've
to
always
use our
wondered, like,
codes to
right?
make
Yeah,
more
yeah,
money
yeah. Use our sponsors, and
to see this
but
great movie.
exactly. We'll have a crowd-funded movie. But I always wonder, like, the Spartans at Thermopylae, if they just had like 1 240. You know what I mean? They're at the
Oh
hot
yeah,
gates. Like if they had like
unlimited ammo, one
unlimited
two
ammo,
forty,
1 240 game. You know what I mean? It could
three
just be,
barrels.
yeah. That could be the title of the movie. King Leonidas and the 240. You don't even need 300. You just need 240. There it is. There's
That's
the movie
it.
line. Yeah, you don't need 34. You don't need 300. That's what they'd call it. Instead of 300, it'd be 240. That's
Two
it.
forty and
240
two forty.
or 241, because you
Yeah,
gotta have, you know what I mean. Oh, let's do
yeah,
242. We'll have Leonidas and then somebody else to do the barrel changes.
yeah, yeah.
242.
This is Sparta.
Yeah. Oh man, wouldn't even know what happened to him. That's exact. But
So
for real though, dude.
he comes
Like,
walking down. He's like, "I am a gracious god," and then just gets annihilated.
right, Swiss cheese.
Ugh.
Yep.
We're getting way off track, Chris. What's your
No,
question?
this is the that's the whole point, man. All right,
No, I
next
get it,
one.
but it
So we
started with
kind
an F and a
of let's
T.
just like
Now we're
totally
talking.
like continuing in the same vein, right? Um,
Okay.
I know that I feel like we've talked about this before, or I know I have, but the whole Malmstrom UFO incident from the '60s, and then the Bentwaters Royal Air Force incident. Those are pretty popular
I
UFO
don't know
incidents,
the
but
Bentwaters one.
so I bring them up because both of these involve security forces members, and
Hmm. Defenders.
so you defenders, yeah. So you've heard of the Malmstrom incident where they had all those sites, like they went offline and they were all
Hmm.
reporting these UAP above these sites, and they lost communications with the ICBMs in the ground. And
Hmm.
but anyway, the Bentwaters one, like I said, is RAF Bentwaters, so Royal Air Force, so in the UK. And this one was in the 80s, but essentially one of the sentries at one of these gates started reporting lights in the trees, and they got permission to drive off the installation, and go check out what was in the trees. And the guy, he's really old. I honestly would love to have an interview with him. His name is the I would say he was a lieutenant colonel at the time, but Robert Salas is his name. He went out there. He was like the vice wing commander, but he went out with all these security forces members out into the trees
Hmm.
and recorded like audio of them looking and following these UFOs. And this happened like Christmas time, and it happened over a couple days. But like this, the main like thing that happened to them, like they had this UFO they followed through the trees. It actually went into a house and lit the house up, and then came out, and took
When
off
you
into
say
the
lit the
sky.
house up, like
From the
lights,
inside.
not didn't like
Hmm.
blow it up.
No, not like Leonidas with a 240
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm
And
thinking.
Xerxes. No. Like it went like this red glowing orb is what they were following, and he's like talking about it on this audio recorder he has the whole time, and he's talking to all these cops. You know what I mean? And but it goes inside the house, and like you could see, like he said, you could see it lighting up the inside of the house, and but it would take off into the air, and they also reported seeing other ones in like a search pattern. You know what I mean? And it looked like they were
Hmm.
looking for something on the ground. But I was just wondering if you'd ever heard of those because they both involve security forces members. And I think that's really interesting because there are a ton of cops, like Air Force cops, that have incidents like that. And I feel like
Hmm.
Air Force cops specifically have more incidents involving like UAP just because of like the nature of the Air Force. You know what I mean? With
Yeah.
all the aircraft we have and the other like, you
We're
know,
also the only ones standing guard against nukes, minus the Navy.
right,
So,
exactly. Well,
and the
yeah, and
Navies are
even
all
then,
on
it's
submarines.
exactly it's
Yeah.
different. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the point I'm making. But like, it's kind of wild when you break it down. Like, those are some of the most um, well documented incidents involving UAPs in the military, and they involve security forces members. So I was wondering if you'd heard of them.
I've heard of the Malmstrom one. I've not heard of the one in the UK. Yeah, no, the Malmstrom one. When did that happen again? Was that
It was in the
recent? That was
'60s.
recent.
No, I want to say it was
Oh, yeah.
'67. The one I'm talking
Okay.
about was from '67. I will get you an exact answer right now. Stand by, sir.
Because I was trying to remember when I heard about it, and I think I heard about it when I was at Fairchild.
It was. I was right.
Because
1967.
yeah, because there was a there's a DAF Department of the Air Force like police officer named Mr. Eastman who worked at Fairchild, and he said that he was at Maelstrom when that happened. Um, he didn't really go into much
Wow.
detail about it, but I could probably reach back out. So I'm pretty sure he still works as a DAF guy at Fairchild.
So was
Um,
he was one of the cops that was at the sites when that was happening?
yeah, he wasn't. I don't think he was on shift that day, but I think he was
Mm,
at like he's a part of the unit at that time. He was at the base, like all type of stuff. So he could probably have more
interesting.
insight of like what
So he
happened
has
before or after.
so he's got
So
like secondhand accounts basically.
yeah, yeah, like first hand, second hand accounts, I guess, because we're getting it like third, fourth hand now. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, no, that'd be interesting to speak to. But it would make sense. I mean, like we just said, obviously security forces are probably going to be more prominent when it comes to these things because we're
Hmm.
around the nukes. If I was an alien species, I'd want to know what the heck the nukes are, where they are, what's going on, especially because they're so destructive. Um, but no, that makes sense. That's strange that they just lose connection with like your nukes. Like I feel like that should be like if I was NORAD and I just realized all my nukes at Maelstrom just disconnected, I'd be like, what the,
Yeah, you
like,
get it. Given the time period, 1967, and this is what
yeah,
happened, right? Like the first thought, obviously, was that this is some Russian technology doing
yeah.
it, and it kind of goes
Because
back to
like,
what we were saying before about like the whole F-15 thing. Like your first assumption is that it's an enemy. Would be that it's an enemy. You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. Because I'd be willing to bet, like, going back to the F-15 thing, even if the F-15 was like murking the Japanese like Navy, if the
Yeah.
U.S. noticed it, they'd be like, uh, it's got a
Yeah.
flag on its tail, but
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
know if it's ours.
Yeah. Yeah. No, dude. Like, it's fucking up those Japanese. Let it. Let it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't see it. Look the
Exactly.
other way.
Yeah. Right. Hopefully, it doesn't come over here. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Could you
'cause
imagine if
we
you
can't.
tried to like land on like the airfield there at Pearl Harbor in an F-15? Or what
Well, you
that'd
can
be?
100% do it, but
Well, I know you could, but I'm saying
you
like, what would
you'd probably get
happen? Like,
annihilated as you were landing. I feel
I was just
like.
saying
I
like,
feel like you get shot as you're landing.
yeah, do they just like start opening fire on you? You know what I
Hundred
mean?
percent,
Yeah,
100%.
probably.
If think of it this way, we're both security forces member. If you were sitting on the airfield and a really weird, unidentified thing just started landing like
Hmm.
on your airfield, you would have the tower freaking out. Mock would be freaking out. You probably be hearing on the radio like, "Is this friend or foe?" Blah blah blah. At some point, either you or your flight chief or someone's gonna make the decision to light that fucker up, and it's
Yeah, I
gonna
feel
get
like the
lit up.
first. Yeah, I feel like I could see that depending on who's in charge that day. Like either like you're gonna sit there
Yeah,
and watch it do something and then like not fire until you're fired upon, or you're gonna get somebody that's just like full send. You know?
and but it's not fire so fired upon us. It's the same F-15 you just saw annihilate an entire empire. So like, I think
I
you
mean, yeah,
fire
yeah.
before five.
If it's the F-15 and you saw that happen, you know what I mean?
Yeah, Like
But
you have
yeah,
knowledge of that. But yeah, no, I
right.
get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because like if I don't know, if I was a security forces member, well, I am. But like let's say I'm on an air base and a
Mm-hmm.
random MiG is just trying to land,
Oh
that's
yeah.
weird. Now, if it's like just in a random emergency, like pilot's gonna die unless he like lands here, then I would assume the
Well,
US would
that
probably be like, okay, you can
if
land.
let's just say like
But
if a MiG was gonna land right at an Air
mm,
Force base, aside from the fact that like that clearance would go like the base commander would be
all the way
calling
up.
their boss. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The president.
They would make sure everybody knew. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? What was going
Yeah.
on? You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like they probably just for good measure would probably have the gate guards take the official photos off the wall, like if like it matters. You know what I mean? Like you just see that sort of like crazy ridiculous hide your SSIs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like crazy ridiculous reaction.
Because the
You know?
random MiG pilot who's having a heart attack is gonna look at it.
Sure. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't know. But anyway, but no, the Bentwaters one I've always been really interested in because those guys are still alive.
Yeah.
A large portion of the ones that were out there that day, that on shift that evening, and you know,
They aced a
it made
light or something. But
lights
that
and actual craft, and you know, it made the blotter, and it actually you know that Colonel Salas ended up doing a like an official report that got picked up by Project Blue Book, and like Project Blue Book, everyone knows now. You know, it was kind of just like the Air Force's like way of being official about investigating, but also using it as an impetus to attribute those incidents to things other than you know
mhm.
UFOs for yeah, but
Yeah. But like we kind of we talked about this a little bit earlier, like with the Tic Tac. Like, what if that is just a U.S. asset
yeah,
that no one knows about except six people in a room? And the best way to test it is to see how we respond to it with our best aviators. Well, like it or not, and if you didn't know, security forces were the only ones who protect missile silos and nukes. So
mm-hmm.
if you wanted to test like a way, like some type of device to deactivate nukes, you would test it against your best defenders,
Yeah,
which would be at that base or the other one, and you would see how they would respond, and you would
yeah.
get all the information and intel, and then you'd be like, all right, we can use it against the Russians, or we could use it
No, I
against
mean,
this or
did
whatever.
it to honestly, man, like going back, like thinking about this, like both explanations make sense to me. Like I think we
Mm-hmm.
said before that that whole comment, I don't remember who made it now, but about um, nukes and humanity is like needing to take matches away from a baby, right? So if you're this like
Yeah.
omniscient, you know, universal species where you're intergalactic and interstellar, right? Completely,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and you see us, right? We're a couple hundred years removed from using, you know, spears and swords. You know what I mean? To
Mm-hmm.
now these thermonuclear weapons, right? You're going to be a little concerned, and rightly so. You know what I mean? We don't know all the tertiary effects of this stuff,
Yeah.
but the other part makes sense too. The other thing makes sense too, like you said, like if let's put it this way, if we do have all this recovered UFO craft and technology, which supposedly we do, right?
Mm-hmm.
That whistleblower David Grosh just came out recently and said that we've had these down UFO retrieval programs and we have all this reverse engineer technology. And I know that guy Bob Lazar is super controversial and a lot of
Oh,
people, you know, you can poke
Congressman
holes
just
in a
said
lot of
something.
yeah. I think
What
I
was
know
it?
what you're talking. Was
Keep
it
going. I'll find
yeah.
it.
You know, you can. A lot of people take issue with Bob Lazar, and when you really look at like a lot of what he says about himself, it's very questionable. But like, there's a lot of people that have come out and said that there's these retrieval programs. David Grush, hope I'm saying his name right. He's the one that's the most recent and the most credible for
Yeah.
sure.
He's a
But if
senator.
they have okay, if they have all this technology, like you said, like we've been saying, like why not go test it out? Like who knows what that stuff was up in the UK? Because it took place in the Rendlesham Forest, where RAF Bentwaters is, and I mean
Mm-hmm.
you have you know the missile sites are pretty secluded and away from everything. Most of them are anyway. Some you can see from the
Yeah.
highway. And then, but you know, you get this really heavy pine forest, you know, to go like run something around, and there, you know,
Mm-hmm.
ain't shit out there. You know what I mean? Except a couple of cops, and some other people. So just like
Hmm.
out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean, and some of these Navy pilots, you know what I mean? No one's
Hmm.
around except the military guys. So, well, who was it? Who's the senator?
It was Senator Marco Rubio, and he is
Oh yeah, yeah.
the vice chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee. And apparently, he confirmed that the whistleblowers with firsthand knowledge, who hold high security clearances, have informed the Senate Intelligence Committee about the existence of covert UFO crash retrieval programs and UFO parts or pieces within the United States held by the Pentagon and the DoD.
Hmm.
So that's a U.S. senator pretty much just saying, yeah, UFOs exist. We have parts. Uh, have a good night. Like,
Yeah, dude.
because why
Honestly,
would
man.
they say it so outlandishly and
Yeah,
like it doesn't even bat an eye anymore? People are just
yeah.
like, oh, okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna go get my Starbucks. Like, what?
Growing up, I used to think about this when, like, when UFO and aliens would be on the news, and like people would say this shit's real. Like, I used to think about that as a kid. Like, what? Like, you feel like it's just like this. It's this grand thing, that like is gonna
Yeah,
change the way we all live. Like, and you get on like TikTok and Instagram, and you like look at like the comments about that people make about these things. They're like, so do I still gotta go to work in the morning or what? But it's true though. You would expect like
yeah.
when whoever whatever pick a team wins whatever championship, like people burn down cities, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And it's just like there's zero reaction, you know what it feels
Yeah,
like, except from like a very niche group of people who aren't
yeah,
out rioting and looting and lighting
yeah,
cars on fire, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like kind of nuts that it almost just feels like it's not even making a ripple in anything. And I don't know if
well,
it's just like, is it the US
there's
government has lost so much um you know has lost so much respect with the American people that no one cares.
credibility.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
maybe, I don't know. There's the I've heard the idea a while ago where it's like a lot more UFO stuff is coming out because the US or most world governments know that yes, aliens exist and there's potentially like a species coming to like wipe us out, but they can't just right say that because then we would destroy ourselves, right? Before that ever happened. So they have to like very slowly and very meticulously like give us snippets until we can finally be like, hey, so yeah, okay, there's life on other planets. Got it. All right. There's UFOs. They've crashed before. We've used their tech. Okay, cool. They looked at our stuff, like our nukes or whatever. All right. They've kidnapped us. They've been on this planet. Oh, and by the way, they just passed Jupiter and they're coming to fuck us up. Gotta get ready. Like,
yeah.
it's like it's like a building thing. You can't just like tell everyone, hey, aliens exist and we're about to be annihilated. You have to
Right.
like
Yeah, yeah,
build
yeah.
up to the
You can't
we're
just
going to be annihilated.
rip the band-aid off something like that, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? So I've heard that. I've also, so I don't remember his name now. I wish I could, but he's pretty prominent in the UFO community, and he actually has a documentary. I'd have to look him up to get his name, but he's saying essentially that the government is trying to make us believe UFOs are a threat to basically get those final pieces on total control over
Yeah.
the global population.
That's that's
And then
the is it like Blue Beam or something? Where they're gonna like
Project Bluebeam, like where they're gonna like
they're gonna like
project these
fake an alien
images, fake an
invasion,
alien
use
invasion.
that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then, but the other thing too, I've also seen where that essentially there's an alien species or alien species, like multiple, like plural,
Hmm.
have told government officials that, hey, you guys need to like knock off some of the bullshit you guys are doing, and that if you
Like there's
want,
there's a galactic world court and we're like North Korea to them.
kind of, but like, but that essentially that they are telling us that we've got like a countdown to knock off the bullshit essentially,
Mm.
or there's going to be consequences essentially, and that this whole disclosure thing is their way, kind of like what you said, like giving it to people in drops to
Mm.
understand what's going on, but that essentially we've been given like a warning that, and then if you want to have this like symbiotic relationship with us where we help you solve all these problems, you need to get to a certain point to where we feel like we can have a conversation, basically. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And that there's a time limit on this, and if you don't by, I don't know, 2035, if you guys aren't at peace globally or whatever, then we're cutting the cord essentially, and you're on your own. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
This this kind of makes me think of like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where like they're building like a superhighway through
Mm-hmm.
like the universe, and
Yeah.
the Earth is in the way or something.
Yeah.
And they've been like trying to tell Earthlings for like ever that you need to like petition to like not be destroyed for this highway, and we just
Mm-hmm.
never responded because we had no idea they were talking to us or something.
Yeah.
And so Earth gets destroyed for a superhighway.
There's some other scene in that movie where what is it? They get trapped under a rock or some shit like that in a cave, and it's like we'll pull out the guide to see what it says to do because like every scenario that could ever exist is in there,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like okay, well, what to do if you're trapped under a rock in a cave or whatever? It's like if you've had an enjoyable life up to this point, take joy in the memories that you've had, and if it hasn't been a very good life for you, take solace in the fact that it'll be over soon. You know what I mean? The movie's that's so dumb but funny. But yeah, no,
I love the
yeah,
dolphins like leave like so long and
yep,
thanks for
like for
all
all
the
the
fish.
fish. Yeah, but
But no,
yeah, man, I think that the
with
go ahead.
I think it's interesting every time we think of like aliens or UFOs or whatever, we inadvertently just assume they're super smart or like they're very advanced or
Mm-hmm.
that like they have all these like crazy like they'll solve our problems. Like it's like what you said, like, oh, we'll solve your problems, but you got to be like cool, right? Or you got to meet
Mm-hmm.
our type. Okay, a bee can fly. Okay, can you fly, Gresham?
No.
No, you can't fly. I can't fly, but a bee can fly. A bee also communicates with its like people. They have a whole like almost like a tribal system. They like have all this type of stuff. A bee, I feel like, or bees are pretty intelligent and they do some cool shit that we can't do, right? Obviously not as intelligent as us. But like what if aliens just figured some like the whole nuke thing? What if they can travel through the stars but they've never seen a nuke before? What if they like like and that's what I don't know. I'm
No,
probably
we've
butchering
kind of had
or
it. No,
trying
no,
to
no. We've kind of
here.
had a similar conversation like this before, where everything that we've done on this planet, we've done because we're using the resources available to us to this planet.
Yeah.
So maybe this concept of interstellar and intergalactic travel to us with the resources we have seems like a very unattainable or nearly unattainable thing.
Yeah, but like
But the
another
resources
species
somebody
doesn't
has on their
daily.
planet, it seems like yeah, they
It's
just know
nothing.
that yeah,
It's
maybe
like
they
breathing.
have right, maybe they have like a rock or a mineral or some sort of whatever that has anti-gravitational properties, and
Hmm.
somebody came along one day and realized that you could use it to travel or move shit or whatever, and that just
Yeah.
exists on their planet. So this concept, like you said, of what's a nuclear weapon, well, maybe they don't need to understand things at an atomic level, dividing atoms, all this
Hmm.
stuff, and eventually came up with the atomic bomb. Maybe they don't need to understand nuclear fusion or nuclear fission to exist. You know what I mean? So it's just
Yeah.
like kind of depends on what's available to your planet. Like maybe
Because it's like
planets that don't have coal. Like oh, they're burning something for energy, just making all this black smoke. You know what I mean?
yeah.
We don't
Because
have
like the whole
coal on.
like the Roswell crash, right? That's like the big one. Like, well, that's the like big first UFO crash, and like the government got it or whatever. But like, and when I think that, some people are like, well, they're an alien species. How would they crash? Well, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, if they're an alien species that's traveling the stars, if they've never been to Earth before ever, how would they know what to expect? It's like if we when we go to like Mars, you we're gonna plan for all these crazy things, right? But you
Yeah.
could get there and something way off could happen, and then the whole plan just fails. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they could be traveling the stars, but maybe their planet doesn't have wind. And when they came into the atmosphere, a gust of
Who
wind hit their
knows?
ship and it crashed. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Or lightning. Yeah. Who knows, man?
Or like the movie Signs, how all the aliens are like they died with water and
Water.
they came to
Right.
like a 80% water planet. Like
Right. Right.
it just
Yeah. I
just
mean,
blows my mind.
it is. I mean, that's. I know those are science fiction. This is a science fiction movie, but like
Mm-hmm.
that, those kinds of things, like how many times,
It
like,
exists.
let's put it this way too, right? Um, you go and you make contact with another civilization on Earth, on the other side of the Earth, and you give them your communicable diseases. You know what I mean? That's an unforeseen consequence of you
Yeah.
making contact with them. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And obviously, you got learned how to weaponize and
There's
and
that
all that stuff.
little
But
there's that island off the coast of like India or
Sentinel
something that's still
Sentinel Island,
yes, and they're like
yeah,
still spears running around naked,
yeah.
like tribal, like doing crazy stuff. And you know, I bet to them we are really weird aliens with
Well,
like
there,
crazy tech and a whole bunch of stuff.
I want to say it was the in Papua New Guinea. There is a native tribe that essentially thought that airplanes were gods, and they built like replicas of.
747.
No. These were airplanes that were dropping supplies, and they
Oh,
they built
that
these
makes sense.
replicas of these airplanes and were like worshiping them, and they were putting these replicas of these airplanes on like plateaus and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Where these like up high and wide open, and
So the airplane god could see it and they give them more
exactly, and
more
that's
more aid.
right. And like there's photos of these like aircraft replicas, and but it's just I want to say it was in Papua New Guinea. I'd have to look that up, but
Yeah.
it's just wild to think about because when you look at like what ancient man did, right? We do shit
Hmm.
like that all the time, And you look at like, you're familiar with the Nazca lines?
Mm-mm.
So the Nazca lines are these pictographs on the ground. They're enormous. I want to say that they're in what's it?
Are these like the animal ones where like it's a huge ass bird type thing?
They are. There's ones that's a bird. There's like one that like is I want to say it looks like a person. There's like a monkey and a
Hmm.
snake.
Hmm.
But I remember it's in South America. I'm struggling to remember the name of the country. I want to say it's like maybe it's like Chile or Peru. But anyway, when you look at that, like they're definitely meant to be looked at from the sky. That's how you're
Yeah.
going to see them, and that's just kind of wild because that
What in the
those
sky
right
were they showing
those
that to?
were they
Yeah.
showing that to exactly, so it's just kind of ancient man has done that for a long time,
Hmm.
right? Building replicas of airplanes for the sky gods.
Hmm.
It's just I don't know,
The
man.
747.
No, they weren't. No, they were
Yeah, I know.
smaller
I know.
smaller aircraft, but yeah, no, they were dropping supplies.
I just imagine now because I know there's a bunch of flight paths that like go over Sentinel Island. So
Hmm.
like, I just imagine like you're a Sentinelese and you're looking up and it's just like a 747 and you're like freaking out like like
Right,
there it
dude. It's
is.
it's like life in a fishbowl for sure. It makes me
Yeah.
wonder, because I'm gonna say
And
this too, man.
they're only like 40 miles away from like a well populated like city or something too. Like they're not that far.
Right. I just want to say too, man, because first you gotta have they have to have seen like yachts or shipping ships. You know what I mean?
I
Um,
think there is like you can't get as close as you
like
used
a
to be able to now.
no sail zone, no or something
Yeah.
like that. Well, what I was gonna say is that every once in a while there's always some Yahoo missionary who thinks that they're gonna go and convert the Sentinelese, and they wind up with a spear in their chest. You know what I mean? It's just like, dude, you had to come.
Well,
It's like I don't feel bad for you. You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Well,
Like,
the last one did end up that way, but there was one before that one. I'm pretty sure the country of India technically like owns Sentinel Island, or like they just like we're
I think
not
I'm
like
pretty sure they are. They're responsible for them
yeah they're
away or
responsible for
whatever.
it. So like they
Yeah.
just cut it off, everyone off. But there was a while, and I want to say it was like in like the 80s. I
Hmm.
want to say, where they were doing a lot of like trips during that time with like doctors and a bunch of other stuff. And during that time, relationship with the Sentinelese was relatively like good. They wouldn't just stab you when you showed up. but you couldn't
Interesting.
go on the island. You could like raft up and like kind of communicate and like give supplies or stuff, and they would give you gifts, and then you would leave. But you couldn't
Interesting.
go on the island. If you ever went on the island, they would kill you. So that's like work was being made, but then something happened, and I guess like it wasn't enough funding, so they canceled it. And then there was like a 15, 20 year spurt where nothing happened, and then some missionary went there and then was killed.
Hmm.
A
I have to look that
boat
up.
crashed there too. Didn't mean to. Like it actually just like washed up on shore, and all of them died. And then
That
uh,
sucks, dude.
yeah, a like you make it to shore, and you're
You
like,
didn't
I
even, I
did
know,
it,
right?
and then some dude
Somebody
comes out,
realizes, like,
woo,
dude, I'm pretty sure this is Sentinel Island.
send the
You just
what, and
like,
then what?
exactly, dude. You're just like, it's like the scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark where Indiana Jones is running from the Jovitos.
I
Start the
just thought of
engines!
something. I just thought of something like horrible. Take one 50 cal or 240,
Oh my
just
god.
drop it, like fly over in a helicopter, just drop it on the beach of Sentinel Island with like 1,000 rounds, and then just leave. See what they
See what
do.
they. Dude,
So they
that might
just
be.
annihilate each
That sounds like an
other.
interesting reality TV show.
It's such a huge like it's like a huge crime against like humanity. Like,
Probably, dude. All right, I think it's your
uh,
question.
it is. You've had a lot of questions about like very specific things. Mine are more just kind of like pick your brain.
Mm.
We're pretty yin yingy today. Um, you wake up tomorrow, Gresham, and you immediately know that the world is going to end in 1 year.
Hmm.
Only you know, and you know for a fact. It's not like it might happen, it might not. You know for sure the world is ending in 1 year. No one else does, and no one else will believe you if you tell them. What do you do in that 1 year?
Well, I will not make an attempt to tell everybody it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You said no one will believe me.
No one will believe you, and no one will know.
I mean,
Only you know. It's going to
yeah.
happen.
I feel like I
I
would
guess.
probably still want to
I
say
guess if you
something
told
to
your,
my wife. I
uh,
would probably still
yeah,
tell her. Um,
yeah,
what I would do though, honestly, is that I would try and have just the greatest life ever for a year. I would definitely get out of the Air Force because I could technically. Um, I would, yeah, man, I would just go ham, dude. I would live the best life I could. My wife, my kids, we would have just an epic time. And
mm-hmm.
I wouldn't give a shit. I wouldn't like
About
obviously I
anything
wouldn't give a
really.
shit about the consequences. Like like obviously I wouldn't do anything that was harmful to anybody. But like you know, fucking I don't know, rent, buy a Lambo. I'm never gonna pay it back. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean? Like I don't even think I would do that. But like I would, just
Yeah,
I think I would just create the most epic year of experiences and memories with my family just to have like a blast.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
And that's it, man. Your question makes me think of my brother-in-law. He's always like joked. He's like, if I ever found out I had stage 4 cancer and I was gonna die, he's like, I'm going to Belgium and I'm doing nothing but eating beer, potatoes and chocolate and doing all the drugs in the world until I fucking die. He's like, it's gonna be the best. It's like okay, you know what I mean? Like
There
that's
was
like what I would do, man. I would do something like that, dude. Like we would go anywhere we wanted to go. We would do whatever we wanted to do. No
Can you
inhibitions.
imagine if like you were told that you were going to die and they got like the results wrong, like they mixed you up with like someone else,
Right,
like you're living your
right,
life like you're going to die. There
bro.
was a there was a movie, I'm trying to remember the title of it, but it's like this woman, she's like told that she's going to die, and so she decides to go to like some super high end resort in like the Swiss Alps or whatever, and she's like spending all her money, she cashed in all her retirement, like all this stuff. But where she's at, like no one can get a hold of her. It's like the doctor who told her she's like gonna die in like 6 months is like trying to like
Is
get a hold of her and say like I did
is
it wrong.
is this that movie with Queen Latifah?
I think
Oh
yeah.
my god, dude! I remember what that's called. Did I watched that one time on like Post? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's where I
Yeah,
watched it too.
yeah,
It's not a movie you actively watch. It's a movie
right,
that's playing that you just kind of like,
exactly.
well, I'm gonna see it.
Yeah, you show up and it's just like one of the four DVDs that's there. You're like, what do we watch?
What's funny is I I watched that movie in parts
Hmm.
over different times at a nail salon.
It seems like the perfect venue to watch that movie.
Yes,
It's
my
like
wife and I would
you
go,
go to like the doctor's office. That's what's on in the lobby.
and
I
then
was
the
like, I
doctor
know
tells
this
you you
movie. I
notice
don't know the
this one
name of this
slightly.
movie. Yeah, I know that's Queen Latifah, but I don't know what this movie's about.
Yeah, no, that it's an interesting movie.
She's
She's like
finding
she
love though.
becomes she does with like the cook.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
This is
There's a
like
whole
yeah.
lot of weird stuff.
No, it's just like it is. It's one of those movies, or like you go into like the lobby of like some place, the dentist's office or whatever,
Hmm.
and they've got like Seventh Heaven playing. You're like, who the fuck watches this show? You know what I mean? Or it is like Oprah or The View. Like, dude, I
Yeah,
swear to God, dude, the hospital on base. You go anywhere and it's like playing The View. It's like who's
yeah,
watching? Like the community that goes to this hospital does not enjoy the majority of these the political commentary on this show. You're like, who's turning this on? You know what I mean?
but Afy's got a sick deal on the View, so they're
Right,
playing it everywhere.
dude. Yeah,
Uh,
it's like the grocery
that's fun.
store radio playlist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where
It's like
they
how many
cuss, they
times can
they,
I
they
listen to
bleep out like
Brown
another
Eye?
word.
Yeah, how many times can I listen to Brown Eye Girl before I, try and swallow a can of green beans and not have to listen to it anymore?
What's when I was at Cadena, it was like the one American like radio station.
Mm-hmm.
On the
AFN.
weekend, yeah, AFN. On the weekend, they obviously didn't have like a person in the booth. Like they would
Yeah.
just they just have like a 72 hour like music
Mm-hmm.
like reel with
Yep.
ads that would just play.
Yep.
And they do the same thing at night, right? And I worked nights for the first year, and I noticed that like every Wednesday, like it was a Wednesday when I realized it. I was sitting there and I was like, why do I hear this song every day, like on Wednesday or something like that? And so, me being bored on post, I started to like track it. I was like, all right, this song plays every Wednesday at like 8:22. This song plays, and I realized it's just the same. They just put
Yeah.
in a CD and then they go
Yep.
home. And I was like, oh, son of a.
Dude, so when I was in high school in Germany, one of my friends, his dad worked at AFN Europe. He was like one of the people that picked what went on the air.
Mm,
And so that's 100% the truth because I've been in the booth like when they're on the air, just like watching, make you shut the fuck up, and I just sat there. But it's just a loop. It's just like, you know, it's like a list of
yeah,
songs on the screen. There's no one in there. It's just playing.
yeah. It's just going,
But
going. It plays ads. It plays
yeah,
commercials.
yep, that's
Come on
it.
down to your local commissary this Sunday to get
Right,
the
right.
half off
And
beef brisket.
right, or they'll have like they're like advertising, the Christmas market at the hangar, but it's July. You just like, oh,
Yeah,
somebody, it's like what, you know what I mean? This is exactly
it's
the thing
coming
you
up soon.
expect. Yeah, exactly. Coming up soon, Santa at the BX. It's the Christmas in July. No, but dude, when I was in middle school, my dad was stationed at Yokota, and I would listen. This was like I had a CD player that was also a radio, and my parents just would not buy me the album Nevermind, Nirvana's album Nevermind,
Mm-hmm.
and because of Kurt Cobain. But anyway,
Very satanic.
oh yeah, totally not. But I called in so many days in a row and requested. I was just hooked on Smells Like Teen Spirit. I requested it so many days in a row. I'd get home from work, go to my room, and I would call and request it. And one day, this lady, this I don't know, she was like some airman or a staff sergeant. She was like, "Don't you call every day and ask for this song?" And I was like, "Oh shit!" It's like, "Yeah." She's like,
We're on a first name basis.
"We'll play it, but like later." Like we play that every day now. It's like basically like stop calling and requesting "Smells Like Teen Spirit." I was like,
It's like all we
like,
play.
dude, yeah, I was like, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like, what? This is the request line. You know what I mean? I would rather listen to this than Sugar Ray. You know what I mean? Or like, how many times are we gonna listen to freaking Genie in a Bottle today? You know what I mean? But you're bitching about me calling in once a day to play Smells Like Teen Spirit. You know, but Hit Me Baby One More Time is played 38 times today. You know,
Hey,
on AF.
Amy Baby One More Time is a great song.
But that was what was out, though, man. Yeah, no, but for real. But it was just like, you guys will play that on repeat every fifth song. Is Hit Me Baby One More Time, but you're gonna tell me, we'll play that later. So
Well,
if you were the one on the other end of the phone, back in like
mhm.
the year 2000, and some seventh grader, eighth grader called you and requested that, I just want you to know, I remember, and fuck you.
You listening?
If you're listening, fuck you.
I hope every song you listen to isn't what you wanted at that
Right.
time.
Exactly. I'm sure you smell
I
like
hope
worse things other than Teen Spirit.
I hope Spotify Premium just doesn't load for you and you have to listen to ads.
That's right. iHeartRadio for you forever. All right. My question. My question. Sir, do you
Uh,
know who. All right, I have to ask because you're drinking from a small can of Schweppes ginger ale. There's no fucking way there's ginger ale still in that thing. Or do
yeah,
you
there
have
is.
multiple small cans? What are you taking? You taking like the
No,
world's smallest sips?
can you hear that?
No, because there's nothing in there because you're faking everybody out.
No, there is still stuff in here. Watch, I'll slurp.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get that?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
I drink in
Any
moderation.
anyway, uh, do you know who Jack Parsons was, or Konstantin Jokovsky? So Jack Parsons or Konstantin Jokovsky. Have you heard of them?
Jack Parsons, the American engineer.
Correct. Are you googling right now?
Yeah, I
Look
am.
at you cheating. Or you're
No,
googling next to your empty can of Schweppes ginger ale.
correct. Uh, I see that he was a rocket engineer and a chemist. That's all I got. No, I
Okay.
don't know.
All right.
Jack Parsons.
So I ask because one day I would like to do an episode where maybe it could be like a two-parter episode where we do a
Hmm.
side by side of Jack Parsons and Konstantin Cholkovsky. And I say that because you may recognize him when I start talking about this. But
Who's Constantine?
He's
Const.
A Soviet rocket scientist. Okay,
Just Google that.
huh?
Or say just Google that and he'll pop up.
Well, so you'd have to. You're probably spelling his name wrong.
Probably.
But yeah. Anyway, so I ask if you know because I would like to do an episode one day where we do a side by side with them because both of
Hmm.
them had very odd thought processes about rocketry and space and human beings, right? So I say you may recognize Jack Parsons from listening to that other podcast, Hiding Something, that I told you about.
Hmm.
Because
Very good podcast.
Right. So Jack Parsons, his roommate at one point was L. Ron Hubbard, who is the same L. Ron Hubbard who founded the Church of Scientology. Okay.
Hmm.
He was also a master in Aleister Crowley's like sect of occultism. But Aleister Crowley actually kicked him out because he lost faith in Parsons. So it says right here, the appeal of the astral plane proved stronger than the pull of outer space. Parsons was even a master of the Agape Lodge of the Ordo Templi Orientis, the Los Angeles headquarters of English occultist Aleister Crowley's religion of Thelema, at least until Crowley lost faith in Parsons and had him removed as a master. So Parsons also was like believed in like sex magic. He thought that he was going to like bring in these like spirits and goddesses to
Hmm.
essentially give him special like powers and special knowledge. I wrote so I pulled up a couple
By having
things to like
sex
kind
with
of
them?
well sex with women, right? And like the sex was like a ritual essentially, right? So
Oh, okay.
let me read this to you. Parsons' partner for what he called the Babylon working was his housemate, science fiction writer and fellow occultist L. Ron Hubbard, who was still several years away from founding the Church of Scientology. But the church says now officially that Hubbard was acting undercover to subvert Parsons' black magic and to rescue a girl named Sarah Betty Northrup from Parsons' clutches. Northrup, Parsons' sister-in-law and lover, became L. Ron Hubbard's second wife. Isn't that weird? And here's a quote from Jack Parsons. An end to slave morality, an end to prudery and shame, to guilt and sin, to restriction and inhibition, for I, the Antichrist, am come among you. There is no law beyond do what thou wilt. There's a line. That's a quote from Jack Parsons.
So he says he's the Antichrist?
Yes, I'll read it again. An end to slave morality, an end to prudery and shame, to guilt and sin, to restriction and inhibition. So the end of those things, right? Mm-hmm. For I, the Antichrist, am come among you. There is no law beyond do what thou wilt, which is a line, right? Which is like the belief in the occultism and like, wasn't that like the Satanist thing, right? Is do what thou wilt, right?
Nothing matters. Do what you want.
Right. So he's also right here. The New York Post called him the sex-crazed cultist and the father of modern rocketry. But he essentially, like, his life got out of control and he died relatively young. But he attempted to conjure up Babylon, the Thelemic goddess of female sexuality. Yeah. But anyway, so I say that because so Konstantin Tsiolkovsky was not like in the same level, like, or same arena that Jack Parsons was when it comes to like some of the stuff that they did, right? But Jack Parsons kind of in a way felt like he was using, like, doing this magic to like kind of download this information that taught him what he knew. And he died in an explosion in his garage, supposedly creating something for special effects for a movie. But there's all this controversy around it that he was possibly assassinated, right, as well. Huh. But anyway, yeah, so Konstantin Tsiolkovsky believed that humans needed to leave Earth in order to survive and evolve. So not just like humanity could be saved by leaving Earth, right? And this is come to known as like Russian cosmism or anthropocosmism, right? So like anthros meaning man, right? But that essentially by leaving Earth, that not every human being would have the capability to leave Earth, so we would be basically the best suited human beings, so like the survival of the fittest, to leave Earth. And he also had these really, really weird ideas about like reproduction. His ideas on like reproduction in general were that the actual act of sex was too animalistic. So in order for human beings to evolve, and when we left the planet for space, that we would we would reproduce artificially, essentially. Yeah. And every time would ensure. So this is like very eugenic again, right? Which is
so like theme. Build a baby.
Build a baby. Yeah, it's very eugenic, which is like kind of a theme with a lot of these people that talk about improving the human race. But anyway, that in order to do that, and it would happen.
I'm going to say something controversial here. Mm-hmm. As bad as it is the only way to like ensure you would actually have a perfect race. But again, that's based off of
I think
who
that
is
takes
deciding the perfectality.
Well, yeah. So I was going to say that takes into the question, that begs a lot of questions, right? So who's deciding what perfect is? We don't even understand everything about, the human body. So you don't know, like we're still constantly saying certain foods are okay to eat. And then we go and say, oh, well, maybe you shouldn't eat these foods or whatever. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so you'd have to completely and totally understand. Right. Well, so you'd have to completely understand how the body works in order to say you're creating like the perfect human who's immune to sickness and all these other things. But yeah, like that was his thought process, was that would happen. The impetus or the catalyst for the perfect human race would come from leaving the planet and going into space, because only those human beings with the ability to survive in that environment would be the ones that would move on and quote
Mm.
liquefy the remainder of humanity. But yeah, he also near his death dedicated all of his work to Joseph Stalin too. So, but they
It's
both
winning.
had yeah right, but they both had these occult. Well, for Jack Parsons was in the occult. He worked with Aleister Crowley, but they both believed that magic in a way was giving them like the knowledge that they had to do this stuff. And I want to say to you too that Konstantin Joukowsky was born in the 19th century as well. So, but he's like the grandfather of Soviet rocketry.
I'm gonna say they both sound like very interesting people, and I would like to look more into doing an episode for them. But they were probably two very insane people who were just crazy enough to figure out rockets. And I'm assuming that like the governments at the time were just like, "Hey man, like yeah, we know you want to do all this weird black magic stuff, but could you figure out the rocket for us in the meantime? Like that'd be great." And I think they were kind of just
Man, I'll
letting
say
the black
this.
magic stuff happen so the rockets would get made.
I mean, yeah, maybe we'll put up with your bullshit in the meantime, right?
Yeah,
But I mean, like,
but can you
consider
get the
that
rocket?
exactly. Yeah. All right. Tomorrow you can do Aleister Crowley's stuff. Today we need you to do this.
Can have sex with the love
Right.
god space wizard tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right now, I need a rocket. Okay.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, consider this, right? It's a little weird that you have two people on opposite sides of the world, both
Yeah,
involved in space,
during a time
right?
when they're not communicating with each other,
They're
like
not
those sides of the
communicating
world aren't talking to each
exactly.
other. Yeah.
Yeah, and they have. I mean, is it the parallel or the common theme of space? You know what I mean? Involved that they have these thought processes on downloading information from otherworldly beings and using it to gain wealth and notoriety on Earth. Like with Jack Parsons, that was one of his goals.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Um, but the other thing too, man, is like you say, like the government's like, oh, we'll put up with your occult bullshit in the meantime, while you build us liquid fuel rockets or whatever.
Hmm.
But consider the fact that the government has done things that are occult like to do
No,
to
yeah.
yeah. So like who knows? You know what I mean? It could have been totally sanctioned shit. It's like, hey, fuck it. If it works, it works. You know what I mean? Who cares? It's like, who cares where we get, this from as long as the ends justify the means. And
As long as we
but
get it first,
no,
that rocket
exactly.
looks nice.
Exactly. But
We're good.
I just think for me it's like really interesting to think about that these guys that were doing all this work. You think about all the people that were involved in like the American rocket and space programs, like Werner von Braun. Like the dude was a Nazi at one point.
Hmm.
And it's just a lot of really strange things that like thank God the internet exists because you wouldn't know about them. Like I didn't learn about that stuff when I was a kid,
Hmm.
and like I remember learning about like Warner von Braun as like some hero essentially, and I knew he was German, but I even remember thinking at the time, like in high school, like oh he was a German scientist, like wouldn't he have been a Nazi? And like there was nothing in like my history book about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They kind of
And you
play it
learn
off as like he left the
right.
Nazis because he thought they were bad, but nah, he
Yeah,
was all on board with Nazism.
totally. Yeah, and it's just like you learn all these stuff about people. Like
History is written by the victors.
it is because you've now demonized all these people that are commies, right? Which is it is
Hmm.
what it is. I'm not saying it's not warranted or expected, but like you do that and you don't learn about people like Konstantin Joukowsky, who had all these crazy leaps forward in science. You know what I mean? And it's like,
Hmm.
so I don't know. I would love to one day do a side by side on both of them and talk about like Thelema and all that stuff that Jack Parsons was into and the
Yeah.
cosmism that Joukowsky was like kind of like the father of because
I
he
would.
wrote he
I
wrote
wanted
science
to.
fiction books too.
Yeah. I'd want to like see if we could find like very direct similarities with their thought process and their work. So
Oh,
I'm
there
wondering if
are.
maybe yeah, but I'm like wondering if like I wonder if that works with other types of research. If
Mm.
like I'm wondering if at that time, if you just had rocket scientists, like, do they just all kind of start looking into other weird stuff because it just kind of like falls in like their thought psyche, like you were saying? I'm wondering if that could be the same for most professions. Like, I would argue that if you take most cops, like today, that have like
Hmm.
done the job for a while, they probably more than likely think the same because that's just the realm they're all in, regardless of if
Hmm.
they ever met each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if maybe the work coerced or led them to think their other ways, or maybe their ways allowed them to be good at their work. I don't know. That'd be kind of interesting to look into. Because like
Yeah.
Albert Einstein, he's like super brilliant, but he's also insane in a couple ways. So like
Expand on
there's
that.
got I don't have an exact thing on my mind right now. I just
Hmm.
remember reading that like he would say some like not say, but like he would have crazy ideas on certain things. I have to look more into it. And maybe we could do an episode on that as well. But uh, Einstein was also kind of very interesting. Let me see if I
Yeah.
can find some.
No, that's kind of what you were saying. Is kind of what I was getting um, into with when I said that the common theme between Parsons and Joukowsky was the space thing, and that
Yeah.
maybe it's just it's part of the game of studying space and studying how to get man into space.
Hmm.
Is because when you think about space, you look up at the stars, it invokes thoughts of our existence and religion and God and all these things. So like space kind of is some of those themes about like our origin and where we're going as a species and all this stuff that kind of baked into what space is. So those
Hmm.
themes, it's not hard. It's not a hard stretch to see why and where those themes come from. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I feel like obviously if you're working with rockets, like
Mm-hmm.
the next thing is space. Like,
Well, yeah, but that's totally what they were
yeah,
doing though, was trying to
yeah.
understand how to travel through space, and that these goddesses were actually beings that existed
Hmm.
there. You know what I mean? But anyway, did you find
I think
something?
it's interesting. No, I'm gonna have to dive kind of hard to
Mm-hmm.
find something. It's not gonna be a quick Google search. The it's interesting you're talking about how what was it? How like the Russian dude wanted to make was the Russian one wanted to make like the perfect human, or was it the
Yeah, he was saying that that would be a
yeah,
byproduct of humanity going into space.
okay. Um, I'd be curious. I was wondering if maybe he wrote exactly what those would be potentially, or like what that would look like, or maybe he had no idea because
Oh no, he does.
if
He
you're
goes into detail.
okay, because in my mind, if you're a space traveling species,
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't your body need to be like well equipped for like zero gravity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then when you landed on any mass, like you'd be severely like hindered.
Yeah,
So like how
I don't
good are
know.
you at actually traveling the stars if you can't visit anything?
Yeah,
Because your body's
that's
so
why.
used to zero gravity that when you land on anything with gravity, like
Yeah,
you're
that's what
dead.
he's saying. That's why you need the apex human being to be able to withstand that. You know what I mean? It's like the person that has the best genetics in his mind has the best uh, likelihood of surviving those conditions and then evolving to become a human being that can be intergalactic and then interstellar.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
I, it does. I personally don't think you could have both.
Yeah, who
You
knows?
could,
But again,
I
this is like somebody
yeah,
writing at the beginning of the 20th century, right?
yeah, yeah,
This isn't like he wasn't building rockets and writing about this 10,
yeah.
20 years ago.
True.
He's
No, it's
older than
interesting though.
Jack Parsons. He's older than Parsons, but they were working at the same time.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
On rocket sex magic,
Right.
which I want to study that myself now.
Dude, I mean, it's one way of getting it up. You know what I'm saying?
Speaking speaking of getting up, this is completely off topic. Wife and I were at it's not about me and my wife. Wife and I were at dinner today for
Whoa,
our
buddy.
weekly our weekly dates. And there was a elderly couple sitting next to us and they were having like their date or whatever. And they're probably in their like sixties or
Mhm.
early 70s. And they'd finished eating and the guy took out all his medicine. He's got like a ton of pills. And the his like wife was all like, if you took better care of yourself, you wouldn't have to take all those pills. Just like giving him shit. And he's like, well, if I didn't have to deal with you all the time, I wouldn't have to take these pills either.
Right. I was just thinking in my head, I was like, well, Janice, if you'd stop cooking with butter all the time and stuff, you know what I mean? Or whatever.
it's
Yeah.
but it was funny is like they both laughed about it, so obviously they was just bantering with each other. They're not like mad or
Yeah.
anything with each other type of
Yeah.
stuff. And then she asked, she's like, "Well, what are all those for?" And he was like going through them, right? And then she pointed to one of them, and she's like, "What's that one for?" And he's like, "Oh, this one. This makes me ready for you later tonight, babe." And then he threw it back, and
Oh
then
my
he picked his
gosh.
wife. And I'm listening to him like, did he just? He
That is
just popped a
that is
Viagra.
awesome. That is awesome.
He's about to
Dude.
go.
Yeah, dude, there's
He
no
was
stopping Vesuvius when it's about to erupt, you know what I mean?
no, he was into igniting his rocket with some
Hmm.
sex magic later.
Yeah. Hey
Uh,
man.
Old people are funny. They
Picasso
don't care
had
about anything.
Picasso was having kids into his 70s or some shit.
Damn,
So, dude, apparently
popping them out.
the love gun is still effective apparently until you're
Mm,
dead.
not
So,
too bad.
all right, buddy. Pretty sure it's your question.
It is. This week, Gresham, I don't know if you saw, the
Hmm.
Supreme Court has made a lot of very big decisions.
This is true.
One of them was affirmative action. That's
It's
no longer
funny
a
you're asking me
thing.
about that because I almost went
You
there.
almost put it in.
I
You
did,
almost put it in as yours.
but I didn't
Oh, why didn't you?
because I wanted to ask you the next question more.
Okay. So my question is, how do you feel about affirmative action being gone? Do you believe that affirmative action is because so basically for those who don't know or who live under a rock and are trying to check the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy how to survive under that rock, um, the Supreme Court got rid of affirmative action for all colleges, so you can no longer use like race as a way for admission. So they no longer have to like have a certain amount of percentage of a certain amount of race to, I guess, for admissions or whatever. So now it's 100% off merit. So you have to get in based off of your education and your ability to learn further education.
Yeah.
Um, so the whole point of affirmative action was because of generations of certain people being held back that they would never obtain the ability to make it. So we'll just allow them in so they can, which in my thought process that it's like, okay, you're pretty much just telling them that they are lesser beings and that they need a handout to equal you, which is pretty much the Supreme Court said is what affirmative action was, is that you were just giving, you're pretty much saying that you're being racist by not being racist. So affirmative action is now gone. I'm just kind of curious of how you feel about that, Gresham.
Um, so I'll give you my answer, but I just want to say too that what you just said about talking about how people can't succeed without a handout or a leg up. I don't know
Yeah.
her name, but some idiot on Twitter basically said, well, she did. She said like black people will never succeed in a merit based system, and it's just like that has to be one of the most
How do you not
racist things
say
I've
that?
ever. I know most racist things that I've ever seen anybody say, and it's this. Again, man, like the whole white savior thing is one of the most annoying personality
Mm-hmm.
traits I've ever seen in anybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, and think, first off, being in the military, you see literally everybody from every walk of life. Dude,
Mm-hmm.
like every race,
Excuse
every
me.
sexual orientation, people that are atheists, Jedis, Christians, Muslims, Jewish people, anybody, right? Buddhists, whatever, Tao,
Hmm.
whatever. And it doesn't matter
Yeah.
because, like, I've met people who are black and are definitely smarter than me. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I've met people who are Hispanic who are amazing at math or, you know, whatever. You know what I mean? It literally doesn't,
Yeah.
like, so, but I'll say this too, right? Like, I understand you'd have to be tone deaf to not acknowledge, I feel like, what I'm about to say. That there are parts of our country that need a lot of help when it comes to like community and resources, and I think that that problem is a bigger problem than the things that we talk about being problems, right? I don't
Yeah.
think that there's all these crazy racists, out there in leadership positions around our country that are trying to institutionalize racism and make all these things, impossible for people who aren't white to succeed. I think that there are people that do that, but I think that the what is it, $2.6 billion or whatever it was that's gone to Ukraine could have gone to something better, like improving schools and
Hmm.
textbooks and computers and other STEM things,
Hmm.
in these schools that need it the most, right? So those are the things to me that put people at a disadvantage, and I acknowledge too that sometimes, very often, the communities that are at the most disadvantage for with, the lack of resources or funding or whatever tend to be schools that have a higher population of minorities, right? And it's
Yeah.
not like that everywhere, but that is an issue, right? So that is something that needs to be fixed, and acknowledge that by saying that that's a problem that deserves everybody's attention.
Hmm.
But as far as affirmative action goes, I know that there are people who have lost out on going to school where they deserve to go because of their skin color. That,
Is
come at me,
racism.
man, is institutionalized racism.
Yep.
And I say that because I'll say that to say this, that when I was in college, we had a class where we had a bunch of people from the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra come and talk to us. It was like a music appreciation elective, right?
Hmm.
But I learned like how they get people into the symphony is that, let's just say your instrument is the oboe, okay, and let's say they have a call for oboists. What they have is a panel of people who are going to listen to you play the oboe, but you come out, you don't, they can't see you, you literally just play the oboe like behind a curtain or whatever. If you're wearing high heel shoes, you take them off. Like they said this, like,
Hmm.
you know, and so you have no idea if the person on the other side of the curtain is a woman, is a man, is a white woman, is a black man, is a
Hmm.
Pakistani woman. You have no idea. You're
You just
completely and
hear them
totally,
play
you
the
just
oboe.
hear them play the oboe, and you pick the best person objectively based on whatever fucking criteria they have. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so when you look at somebody's application, in my opinion, for college, it should just be very baseline things, right? And it should be based on what you did, and that's it, right? And I
Yep.
understand too, like these the colleges have like these college essays where it's like, write about the thing that you had to overcome, in your life, and
Tell us
like,
about your life. Yeah.
right, so you talk about how maybe you were, your parents immigrated to the United States from wherever, and your dad started a business and became successful, and that's how his work ethic is what made you work hard in school, and his money, blah blah blah, whatever, some,
Hmm.
and those are great stories, right? And that'll give, that obviously would like kind of hone in on who this person is
It
potentially,
gives context
yeah,
to the
demographically,
individual.
potentially,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, all this stuff, right? I'm okay with stuff like that. So you'd have to figure out some sort of way to do it. But do I agree, with getting rid of affirmative action? Yes, I do. it's a very nuanced answer with a lot of things to consider, and it still leaves problems unsolved, like I said, about communities that need the help to make sure
Hmm.
that the students in those communities, because the children deserve the best learning environment that anybody could give them, right? And teachers, I'll say this too, deserve the best resources and pay that they can get, right? More than what they get now, right? So those problems are still problems whether affirmative action exists or not. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So in anyway, to me, I think affirmative action going away is a good thing because I've seen
I
people
concur.
lose out on going to school because they don't meet the demographic quota.
Yeah, exactly. My wife's is Japanese, and so she fits into the Asian category. And I talked to her a little bit and kind of seen stuff that she's posted about things, and um, like they have to work like 3 or 4 times harder to get into certain schools because on their paper it says Asian, and like there's that just idea that oh they're Asian, they're probably really smart, so they actually like they have
Oh,
you know what I mean, like they have to work really hard to
yeah,
get
yeah.
into this or whatever.
Why don't I
And
just see
so
Peter Griffin sitting down at the desk and pulling the Asian kid out of his backpack and poking him with a pencil, saying, "Do math, do math." Yeah.
yeah, but like the affirmative action was to help a certain minority group, but then it was hurting, or it was to help a certain minority group, but then it was hurting another. So I think getting rid of it's good. It's just fair, just based off
Dude,
of your merit and
here's the thing,
what
man.
you accomplished.
Fair again is a subjective statement, right?
It
You can
is.
only do things that make things as fair as possible. So no
Mm-hmm.
matter to me, right, you're never going to eradicate every sort of unfairness that exists in the world because the world
Mm-hmm.
is imperfect. We can do our best to make things as fair as possible, but I think the best way to do that is a merit based system for anything. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because then it's off your actions and it's off what you're doing, right? And what's one of the biggest issues I have today with the direction, at least from my experience, the Air Force is going. It's getting away from this meritocracy based, you know, idea and
Yeah.
military into something else. And that's not a good thing at all. So, you're always going to have winners, you're always going to have losers, you're always going to have people that are upset by an outcome, you're always going to have people that did work really hard and somebody still beat them who worked, you know, just as hard or they did something different, right? And it ended
Mm-hmm.
up being better or working out better. Because how many times have you seen that, right? Where you're both working
Mm-hmm.
your ass off and, person A did something a little different than person B and it just ended up being that difference. You know what I mean? And it's not that person B didn't work as hard, it's that something happened and then, the judges liked person A's whatever better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
I
because
think
there's
it
a lot
also
of
goes down
factors
to
that
like
go into
just
that.
character. It
Right.
goes down to like character and like how are you going to take adversity to like move forward. So like to give you an example, I was talking to my brother Calvin. He was up for BTZ and he didn't make it, and he was
Mm-hmm.
kind of bummed, obviously. So I was talking to him about it. I didn't make BTZ either, um, but I know like the group of people I went up to BTZ with. Most of them are not in the Air Force anymore and are bums. Like they're not really doing anything in their civilian life. Um, and then the ones that stayed in it, like I'm a tech sergeant. None of them are. They're all staff sergeants, um, or just made tech sergeant like this year or something, right?
Okay.
Um, so what I'm getting at there though is I worked my butt off to try to get BTZ, and I was like, well, they only picked two, and I was like third, so like I didn't get it, obviously. Um, but then at least for my squadron, and
You were
then
the first
but
loser.
like I was the first loser. But I took that and went, okay, this doesn't define me. I'm not going to go, oh, woe is me. Oh, I need equity, or all that type of stuff. No, I went, okay, I'll just continue doing what I'm doing, and I'll get what I deserve by doing it myself. And I did. It had
I was
nothing to do with my
talking
race, nothing to do with anything like that. It just had to do with I'm just going to do it.
I was talking to one of the newer airmen that I work with, and granted he is an airman, but he's considerably older. I think he's like his early 30s, and
Mm-hmm.
but he was saying that because he's even though his age is considerably older than the other airmen, he's still in that airman pay grade, so he's still in that
Yep.
airman culture with the other airmen, right? And he was saying that the some of the other airmen are giving him shit. Were giving him shit about like stuff he was getting that were like accolades or some opportunities that he was being given that other people weren't. And he said that he was having a conversation with another airman. And for people listening, airman can mean anybody in the Air Force, but it's also a pay grade, right? There's
E1 to
basic,
E4
yeah,
typically.
E1 E4, you're an airman, right? Anyway,
Bottom of the totem pole.
he right. He said he looked at him. He goes, I found that the harder I work, the luckier I get. Is what he said, and and he's like, I don't get what people don't get about that. He's like, you can show up to work every day and do your job and go home, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
The majority of people are going to do that. They're going to show up to work and go home, and that's fine. You're doing your job. You're here. You did your job. You went home. You come in tomorrow. You do your job again. You go home. Nothing wrong with that. We need that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there are people on both ends of the spectrum. There are people that show up to work late, do the minimal amount of work or don't do any work, and then go home. They
Mm-hmm.
still collect a paycheck, right? And here's
And
the
they
thing:
complain.
there are people that do more, right, and get more because they do more, and that's the way it should be. But I see
Yep.
that going away now, dude. Like one day, man, like I'm gonna go off on this when I'm not in because I have seen so many crappy, garbage ass decisions being made by people in leadership positions, and they're making these decisions on factors that have nothing to do with anything. Immutable characteristics of somebody, right? Something that happened years ago, right? That has nothing to do with
Mm-hmm.
anything going on currently. It's just, good old boy system again, back in
Mm-hmm.
action, but in a different way, I guess. So, I mean, that's a long answer, but I do. I think that everything should be based off of your merit. Yes, at the end of the day, should we take into consideration other things that affect your life, right? If you're an inner city kid and you grew up in a bad neighborhood and everybody in your neighborhood was getting arrested for selling drugs and there's a bunch of gang violence and stuff like that going on, are you at a disadvantage? I do think you are at a disadvantage in some certain ways. Are you at a
Yep.
disadvantage, in the fact that you can't work just as hard as somebody else to try and improve your situation? No, right? Are you starting from the same spot as somebody who was born in Pasadena, California? No, you're not. And they are,
Mm-hmm.
they do, right? If you're, again, right, the only reason anybody knows about, Paris Hilton is because of her dad and his money and then that tape she made one time. You know what I mean? And it's just like there are people that work their ass off and don't get anywhere. And that happens
Yep.
too. But the thing is like I said, you're never going to get rid of the unfairness of life. That's the whole point. Life is arbitrary. Call it what you
Mm-hmm.
want, right? Why doesn't God intervene in things? Well, God gave everybody free will. So if he intervened, then you wouldn't have free will, right? So you can
Mm-hmm.
look at it from a religious standpoint, whatever you want to think about. But I think a merit-based system and letting the chips, land where they fall is the best way to go on about life. Because when you start trying to make everything fair, you wind up killing all the kulaks, and now nobody's got any food.
Yep. For
Anyway,
sure.
soapbox. Does that satisfy your
Hey,
answer?
it did, and you didn't go
Satisfactory
off.
answer.
Yeah.
I didn't. All right. Uh, this one is specific to you.
Mm.
I've always wondered this, and I guess I could Google it, but I want you to tell me, my brother in Christ. Does the Mormon faith have an antichrist? And do you think the end will come in our lifetime, or was the end, right, like as prophesized in like Revelation, a metaphor for what was happening to Christians when the time Revelations was written?
There is no antichrist. It's ridiculous to the Mormon religion. You can't have anyone who
See, I
could.
genuinely don't know, so you're teaching
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Got it. Um, so first off, Mormons believe that all three are separate beings. So like we don't believe in the Trinity. It's
Mm.
God is an individual, Jesus is an individual, and the Holy Spirit or the Holy Ghost is an individual. They're three separate things. Obviously, God is on top, and then Jesus and Holy Ghost to us are technically equal. Like they're not like one's not higher than the other. They're like the
Okay.
same thing. Or not they're not the same thing, but they're you understand the same level. Um the Holy Ghost and Holy Spirit is like what you feel when you know you're making a bad decision. Like when you're like, I shouldn't
Oh.
do this. That's the
Okay.
Holy Spirit going
So it's
like,
like
hey
your
man,
it's your Jiminy
like your
Cricket.
intuition. Yeah.
Okay.
He's like, don't do that. Or hey, this feels good. Keep doing that. Right.
Hey, put it up.
Um that's the Holy Spirit there. But
Okay.
there's no antichrist. There is Satan,
Mm-hmm.
Lucifer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also like the angels that went with him and stuff. But for there to be an antichrist, that would have to put Satan at the same level of God, right? And then that's just not a thing. He doesn't. It's not. He's not even on the same level as Jesus or the Holy Spirit. He's literally just a random angel who decided to rise up. So we don't even give him the satisfaction of being equal to anything. So no, there's no Antichrist.
Okay.
Um,
Interesting.
the end times has not happened according to the Mormon religion. It
Mm-hmm.
is a future event.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we don't know when because to us,
Do you
because
know how?
time to us, right? We understand time today, 24 hours a day, but time to heavenly beings like God or Jesus, Holy Spirit, angels, that type of stuff.
Do you know how
Uh,
closely the end times in Mormonism line up to what the Bible says end times are going to be like? Like, are they closely related, or?
they are closely related, and Mormons believe in everything in the Bible. So, but
Mm.
we'd probably interpret it differently, but like or some parts. But
Because like the
even in the
Antichrist is a
Bible,
big part of the end times, obviously, for Christians.
yeah. So where I'm saying we don't believe in an antichrist is like the Bible says there's going to be someone who comes down who's going to be the antichrist, or there's going to be an entity that says they are, and they're going to be able to do like miracles and trick you.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, yeah, you might have someone say that, but they're going to be so false that you would immediately see through it. Like, there's
Mm.
no way they could even be at the level that it doesn't matter that they come and say they're the Antichrist. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? They would
Yes.
just be so blasphemous. You'd be like, okay. That'd
Yeah,
be
that
like
makes sense.
that'd be like me walking out to the Oval Office one day somehow and be like, hey, I'm the president, and be like, dude, you're coherent. You can't be the president. And then,
Exactly. Yeah. Right. What's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
yeah, mint chocolate chip. But
Got
yeah,
hair and eggs.
I could go into a whole thing about like the Mormon religion, specifically like the different levels of heaven and how there's technically no hell, there's no purgatory, all this type of stuff. But in like Revelations in the Bible, it is saying like there's like a certain time, but just like in the Bible when it says like the earth was created on I think it's like the third day or the second, I can't remember which day, and it's been a while since I read it. But everything happened on a certain day.
Mm-hmm.
That's just written that way for us to understand like it happened at a moment.
Gives us a
It's not actually
chronological way of
yeah,
understanding it.
it's not a day. And
Mm-hmm.
Revelation's end time is the same thing. So
Right.
no one knows when it is except God or other spiritual beings in the celestial plane. Don't believe anyone saying that it's coming soon or it's going to be in our lifetime or whatever because there's no way to know. Um, the biggest thing I can say is believe in whatever you believe in. If the Mormon religion is right, then we're all going to go to heaven. You'll have a final decision. I'll be there to help you out. If the Mormon religion's wrong, well, then nothing. So I guess just kind of live your life and enjoy it.
Hmm. Okay. Well, that definitely answers my question. I just was wondering, like, because the way I've always understood Mormonism is that Christianity is like a serious undercurrent in it, or it's underpinned in like certain Christianity based ideas and thought processes. So I was just like wondering, like, how it. I know there's like obviously some massive differences. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But those tenets of Christianity? Because Jesus is in the Mormon Bible, right?
So the Mormon Bible is just the normal Bible. You're talking about like the Book of Mormon?
Book of Mormon, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, the Book of Mormon. Jesus is not in it. No,
Oh, okay. So then,
he's never once referenced. I don't think.
so
I could
where's
be
the
wrong.
so isn't again right? So this is disabuse me of my false pretense
Yeah, go ahead.
understand, right? I thought that Mormons believed that Jesus, in his like teenage years, made it to the Americas and was teaching like Native Americans about like God.
No. So the Nephites
Mm-hmm.
and the Moroni's, those
Okay.
are those are the people who are in the Americas during the Book of Mormon. Uh,
I thought Moroni was somebody's name.
yeah, Moroni is a name. Yeah, so is
Okay.
Nephi. The
Okay.
Nephi is the Nephites. Moroni is the
Moronites.
Moronites, I believe. I always
Okay.
remember the Nephites because the Nephites they're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But um, they exist in the Americas. They left the Middle East and came over during a certain time
Mm,
period, and I can't remember the exact time period, but it was not when Jesus existed.
okay.
So I believe Jesus is like he's like referenced or he's like prayed to, but he's not ever in the Americas, at least not physically. He does
Okay.
eventually show up to Joseph Smith in like the late 1700s or early
Mm-hmm.
1800s, but um, that's different.
Hmm. Okay.
I could go into a whole spiel on
Yeah.
maybe a different episode, and I could explain like the whole thought process of like it and stuff. It can be a little confusing. Just think of Mormons as basically normal Christians, just with another book. But and there's actually more than just the one book. There's the Book of Mormon. There's Doctrine and Covenants. There's the Pearls of Great Price, and in the Holy Bible, there's four, and together they're called the Quad, and that's what we all believe in. Yeah,
The quad.
and there's more. There's more that we haven't been given yet, and according to our beliefs, all of these pieces are part of the overarching Bible, and there's more to the Bible that humans have not received. And we'll get later. So the Book of Mormon actually is part of the Bible. It's just the Book of Mormon, like the Book of John or the Book of whatever. It's
Mm.
just the Book of Mormon that's
So it's
in
like
the
a
Bible.
chapter.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. I didn't know that. I was just curious what
Mhm.
the Mormon idea of that was because you who better else to answer that question that I know. But anyway,
Yeah.
I dated a Mormon girl in high school.
So is she a I have come
Ask.
to the conclusion that there are three types of Mormons. I think I
Mm-hmm.
told you this when we were in Kenya. There's the
Probably.
insane Mormons, and by insane Mormons, I like they're the ones who they take everything very literally. So all text they take exactly. So when like
Not
the
her.
prophet was okay, so when the prophet, so the same Mormons are like when the prophet's like, hey, don't be addicted to anything. They're the ones who are like, oh, I can't eat chocolate. It's caffeine, and caffeine will make me addicted, and I'm gonna die. They're insane Mormons. Uh, then there's normal Mormons, which I would say I fall into, where we understand because the whole thing of Mormon religion is pretty much no matter what you do, so long as you honestly repent, you're going to make it to heaven. So
Okay.
you don't really need to freak out about a lot of stuff. Now, does that mean be an asshole and a dick all the time? No, because then it's going to be really hard for you to actually repent when it comes to being like repent time. But those are like normal Mormons. They're gonna have a Coca Cola every once in a while. My dad partakes in alcohol sometimes. Like whatever, it's okay. We're not gonna go to purgatory. Then there's the fake
So you
Mormons.
guys believe in
Fake?
purgatory?
No, we don't. I'm just joking
Oh.
about it
Oh, okay. I
because
was gonna say
some
because
religions do.
right. Yeah, yeah, because there are parts of Christianity that believe in purgatory and others that don't. So I was just wondering.
we we have a level of heaven that would
Yeah,
be
yeah.
considered a purgatory, but you could escape it, so it's not
Hmm.
technically a
You could
purgatory.
technically escape purgatory too, in like
Yeah,
the
well,
the Catholic sense of,
depends on which purgatory,
or
because
what
there's a lot of
or what
yeah,
priest you pay off to pray for you to get you out, right?
yeah. What boy you gave him. But then there's like the third type of Mormons are the fake Mormons. They're the ones who just show up to church. They think they're there because like, oh, I feel good this week, and then like later that day they're doing like crack cocaine or something. I don't know. So your girl, was she a normal Mormon, an insane Mormon, or a fake Mormon?
She was definitely. I'm not gonna say her name. Um, I still like I have her on social media.
Yeah,
But she was definitely somebody who, at that point in her life, was like rebelling against what was probably a lot of control going on at home.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. So I would assume her parents are probably the insane Mormons,
I have
and
no idea.
she was trying to be a normal Mormon and was dealing with
I only ever
a lot of
met
that.
her folks one time at the bowling alley on base.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would genuinely have no idea. But I mean,
Yeah, Mormonism is interesting.
angsty 16-year-old girl who didn't like being told to do. You know what I mean? So, which you don't
Makes
need to be
sense.
Mormon to experience. Yeah.
Nope.
Anyway, all right, dude, your
Very true.
question.
It's actually kind of interesting because we're talking about God and religion and a whole bunch of stuff. My
Ooh,
next question is actually God related.
ooh.
Uh, so according to like the Bible and everything, like God hasn't spoken to us in a long time, like
Mm.
thousands of years.
Speak for yourself.
Hasn't done anything. True, but there's no great floods. There's no like amazing miracles. There's no like all this like wild stuff happening that was all like in the Bible or whatever. Um, do you believe God avoids us and maybe just stays in heaven because he now fears what he created?
Okay, so that's a line from Spy Kids, right?
It is.
Yeah. Um, do you think God stays in heaven because he too fears what he's created? Right. Probably one of the most deep lines in a kids movie ever. Uh, anyway, isn't that Steve Buscemi that says that?
So yeah, the next name's like the thumb creatures or something, the hand
Yeah, the
creatures.
Thumbums or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure my sister's probably gonna watch this and my brother, and they were big into Spy Kids.
Oh
So
god.
shout out to these two
I
kids.
remember going to watching
But
Spy Kids 3D.
I did not. Nah, I seen the
Wasn't very
OG
good.
Spy Kids with like But anyway, to answer your question, my view on God as a Christian is more the like deist idea of God as the divine clockmaker, and kind of like I referenced it a little bit before that I do believe in prayer, and I believe that you can take things you want or need or desire to God in prayer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if they're meant for you, then they're meant for you, right? But that idea of, you know, oh, I'm going to pray to God and he's going to intervene on my behalf to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to have all these things. Like, obviously, like, God can do what he wants and God can do anything, right? But there's that whole idea of he's involved in your day to day life to the degree to where, some people think, I think it is counterintuitive to the idea of free will, like I said before.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to take the more like divine clockmaker viewpoint on that he is the one that made the clock and the mechanisms are all moving and the hands are moving around the face, but there's no real involvement in that way, right? And that all the bad on Earth is the result of humans and Satan, right? And his minions. But because humans make shitty decisions because we have free will, and that's what God wants, is for us to have free
Yeah.
will to make the decision to turn to Him. But humans don't because of all the things going on that tempt us to not do the right thing, right?
Yeah.
So I think that. I think that God sees what's going on. I think God knows everything that's going on and offers everybody a way out of that, and you have to choose that. And I think as I've gotten older, I've learned a lot about what choosing your response to things means. Am I going to let this bother me? Am I going to let this, emotion take over all this stuff and make better decisions? And that just comes with maturity, I guess. But
Mm-hmm.
like, no, I don't think God is, like and share this post for one prayer. You know what I mean? Like, no, I don't think that's, God is not checking his Facebook notifications and be like, sorry, Zach, you scrolled past, you're getting a hemorrhoid today. You know what
I
I
gotta
mean?
kill
Like,
Timmy.
exactly. Yeah. Sucks to suck. Hemorrhoids. But no, I don't think that. No, I take God has a very, you know, hands off approach, I think.
Yeah. Uh, just kind of a quick follow-up question. In the Bible, right?
Hmm.
When did all the crazy biblical stuff, well, not crazy, but like when did all like the very large biblical stuff end? Do you know when?
I don't know. I don't understand your question. When did it
So
end?
like there's like so it's like a great flood. There
Hmm.
was huge famines. There's like the locust like attack. There's the Moses parting the seas. Like all this stuff is happening, right? All these miracles. There's a point in the Bible where it stops. Do you know when it is?
Is it the death of Christ?
It is. It's the death of Christ and his resurrection. After
Hmm.
that, there's no more miracles, at least on like a biblical scale, right? There's
Right.
like little nuances and like certain stories and stuff, but like there's not like
The image of the
mass
Virgin Mary
floods.
on toast.
Yeah, that miracle, yeah, that one happened. But like there's, but what I'm getting at is because according to God and according to the Bible, or I guess how you interpret it, Jesus died for our sins, not just the ones from
Hmm.
the past, but for the ones forever.
Right.
So my understanding is that when he died and then was resurrected, it also wasn't just for our sin. It was for the sins of the people who went against God too, like the spirits and the demons and like Satan and everything. It was all encompassing. It wasn't just
Yeah.
for us humans. It was a very like benevolent thing to do and stuff. From that
The
point on,
most
God doesn't.
benevolent.
Yeah, from that point on, God doesn't need to interact. He
Hmm.
doesn't need to do biblical stuff. He doesn't need because he's done it. That was
Right.
it.
Yeah. It was. Well,
Like
that's
there's not a
in the so I'm just gonna say there's a guy that I see on social media. Mostly, I see him on TikTok. His name is Dan McKellen. I think I've told you about him before, but
Mhm.
I really enjoy his content because he gives you a lot of the epistemological uh, context in the Bible and the way
Mhm.
it's been translated and now understood because we know what those ancient languages mean. And so, not every account of Christ on the cross is the same. Okay, but what you're talking about is like one of the accounts of Christ on the cross is he says it is finished,
Mhm.
and it's not him just referencing his death, right, or his his time on the cross. It's meaning everything is finished, like what you're talking about. It is
Mhm.
finished. You know what I mean? And it's
Mhm.
like what you're saying is that by Christ doing that, dying on the cross, for every sin that's ever happened or will happen, that's kind of, I look at it in the way that that's all the proof you need. You know what I mean? That's it. You know,
Yeah.
and anything from this point forward, you have now been shown, like, the rabbit exists in the hat. We now shown you that. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
that's how it's done. Not to call it a magic trick because it's not, but trying to
Yeah.
like, but that's it. That's the most
Yeah.
intense form and exhibition of love and miraculous incident that you could ever see. Right?
Mhm.
Is the death and then the resurrection. So that's kind of how I have always
Yeah.
interpreted what you're talking about. That
Mhm.
nothing else is needed. You have been given everything you need to see to make your
Mhm.
decision.
Yeah. I want to kind of go back on like you're talking about how like God created a clock and all that type of stuff.
Hmm.
My bishop explained because I remember I was always asking my bishop a ton of questions. I was like, what's this mean? What's this mean? Like, you gonna convince me this is right? And I need a lot of answers here, buddy. Right? And so, I remember one time I asked him, I was like, all right, so if God created us and He knows all and is the end all, then how do we have free will? Or how can you be fated to do anything if you have free will? All this type of stuff, right? And he explained to me, and I was like a young teenager, like 13, 14, but he explained to me, it stuck with me forever. Think of God like He's in a hot air balloon above you. He can see every path you can take. You're walking down your road of your life, and there's all these turnoffs for every decision you could ever make. And He sees every path you can take, right? But He doesn't tell you which one to take or force you to take one. He just sees all of them. You're going down your path like you normally would, like while walking. You can only see so far ahead. You can't see more than like a mile or whatever, right? But He can see super far ahead. Now, through prayer, through scripture, through being a good human being, you will be in tune with the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit, and then through Christ and prayer and everything, you can talk to God and you can get guidance. And that's where, if you are a good Christian, good person, in tune with the Holy Spirit, and as you're going through your life, then God will guide you down the path that is the best for you, that you should probably listen to. But at any moment, God could be like, hey, you should probably take a right here. And if you're not in tune, you're not listening, you could be like, no, I'm going to go left. And you have to deal with whatever's down left. But what's great about God is, even though you went and left, He now knows there's a way to get you back right. But again, He's not going to force you to. He's going to wait. He needs you to choose it.
Yeah,
And
you're not Pac-Man in
yeah,
a defined area.
yeah,
So
your Legend of Zelda in Tears of the Kingdom. You can go anywhere. You can go save Zelda immediately, or you can go build a nuclear bomb ship like devices. But yeah, that's kind of how I see God and everything too. I grew up Mormon. I still do believe mostly in it, but I have been way less in His exact teachings. There's stuff I like about it, there's stuff I don't like about it, and all type of stuff. But overall, I just think if you're in tune with the Holy Ghost, if you're in tune with God, you're good. I think you're all right.
um, you said something. I'm trying to remember what it was. It made me think. Um, damn. You were
Hot air
talking
balloon
about
traveling down a
yeah,
path.
yeah, the hot air balloon thing. God. I'm gonna try to talk myself to what I was thinking. God can see where you're going. What path you're gonna take, what paths are available to you, and like what you're gonna take. Um, I lost it. I think.
Dang.
Dang. It might come to me in my head. All right. All right. So, was that your last question?
I do have one more because my first one was technically a joke one. Um,
Oh, okay. I got.
this will be
Well,
your last question, I
well,
think.
it will
Or
be. You're right.
yeah.
I really wish I could remember what I was going to ask you about the whole God thing, like looking down, like the hot air balloon, like God. Like recap what you were saying. I'm trying to remember.
So He is like up above. He can see every path you can take,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just on your life path. You can only see so far ahead. You don't know of what route any decision
Oh,
takes you.
I know what it was.
Okay.
So because God can see like all the routes you're going to take, and you're just kind of going based on the decision you're making, it's kind of like the idea of time and space. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
That if you understand time and space, and you can travel in between time and space, right? Then you know everything. That all history exists all at once. The future exists all at
Yeah.
once. This that kind of like I've always believed. I think we've talked about this on the phone privately. That whole. I think it was Einstein that said that. And I could be wrong, so somebody prove me wrong, or you could Google it while I'm saying it. But that essentially that.
I'm just gonna wait someone to be mad at you in the comments.
Yeah, whatever. Uh, but that physics, like God, science and God are like trying to solve the same problem, right? But just in
Hmm.
from two different angles, essentially. And
Yeah.
I've always thought that, you know what I mean? That the physics science in general, right? You're just understanding, or you're working out the same answer of why, but from two different angles. And that,
Hmm.
when you consider, and obviously we have an extremely rudimentary understanding of what space time means, especially me. I'm not a physicist. You listen to somebody like Michio
Hmm.
Kaku talk about it or whatever. They're going to give you a great explanation. But
Hmm.
they would never say they understand it either, right? They just understand it better than I do.
Yeah.
Uh, but the way people understand God as this omniscient being that understands everything all at once. It's kind of like the way people talk about space time is how it all exists at the same time. Everything that's ever
Hmm.
happened exists all at the same time because it's all
Hmm.
the same. It's all the same energy or whatever. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Anyway, that's what I was gonna say. So,
What's
my last
interesting,
question.
it goes back to what we said earlier
Mm-hmm.
about like if you could travel through time, that means you could also manipulate all matter at all time.
Mm-hmm.
So then why would you travel
Why
in
would you
time?
travel
Because
exactly?
because you know it
Yeah,
all. It doesn't
yeah.
matter anymore.
Exactly.
You're God.
It's almost like you exist on as like a third party observer. If you could understand space time to where you could, just to speak on it in a very simple way. If you could understand space time to where you can move up and down the timeline, even though that's not
Mhm.
really time is not linear. The arrow of time, right?
Yeah,
Then you almost exist outside of it. You would almost have to exist outside of it to be able to understand and see it all, which again
yeah.
sounds kind of like a godlike figure. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Interesting. All right, my last question, and then we'll get to your last question.
Hmm.
What do you, so we've seen a lot of stuff recently. I shared a lot of it with you with that movie, Sound of Freedom, the one about the, like human trafficking and a lot of the other things it talks about that I don't want to say that'll get us, demonetized and our video removed. But
Hmm.
what do you feasibly think can be done to stop human trafficking and specifically like child trafficking?
What do you think feasibly could be done?
I feel like
Nothing.
there's I feel like the things that you would have to do would infringe on
So many rights of
everybody else.
individuals. Yeah. And that's where it's yeah, you could protect all of them, but you're gonna have to they're the consequences. So it's kind of like with the idea of like discipline comes with strength, or
Mm-hmm.
um um yeah, discipline comes from strength. So the you hold something over someone because not because you just have a position, it's because you have the ability to alter their life or alter their decisions, that type of stuff. So it's like the reason why the U.S. has such good global power now is because all these other nations know that if they don't bend to our will, that their time's going to really suck. At least for now, until China takes over. But at
They're
least for
never
now,
taking
right?
over.
but the thing I'm getting at with there is so like just think of it like today. Uh, if I go steal a candy bar from a grocery store, I'm a 30-year-old man. If I steal a candy bar from a grocery store and a cop shows up, he's probably just going to write me a ticket. Like I'm not going to get arrested. It's a waste of his time. I have no priors. I've done nothing else wrong. He's just gonna slap my wrist, give me a ticket, probably for like $100, maybe a court appearance, and I'm gonna go on.
You're going to get a
I could,
ticket for a mandatory court appearance. That's probably what's going to
yeah,
happen. Yeah.
but I could go right back in that store and rob another fucking candy bar.
Yeah, but the second interaction with the cops probably isn't going to go the same.
No, exactly. But what I'm getting at here is I don't know the exact like. I'm assuming child trafficking. If you get caught doing it, you go to jail for a very long time. But to them, the ones doing it, the 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 pro of committing the child trafficking and whatever they reap from it is way more lucrative and worth the
You're saying
con.
they're making it worth their time. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah. So I think the only way to
Hmm.
like actually solve this problem is you need to make it to where if you're involved in it at all, that the con is
Is
worse than any pro that you could ever
mm,
get from human trafficking.
Right. So like slowly torturing you to death,
That could do it.
or like a lifetime of solitary confinement.
That could do it.
Like your existence is now a 5 by 5 by 10 closet.
Yeah. But then that's where we kind of got into the what you're saying, like the human rights violations, because no judicial system is 100% perfect in
Well,
this
when I was
process.
talking about rights,
If
I
you're
was
doing
talking
that,
about.
like you're going to
Go
put
ahead.
it innocent in there somewhere.
Sure, I was talking about the rights. I was talking about is like obviously technology is used to organize and perpetrate these things happening,
Hmm.
right? So like if think of like the Patriot Act on like steroids, where everything you text and send is filtered through an AI, and which is probably already happening, but that's how they figure out what's going on, right? But everything, nothing you have is private at all.
Hmm.
Like you and me, like you
Well,
text
nothing is
me,
now
yeah.
technically.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is like something is legitimately monitoring everything, right? Completely. That like all the texts and snaps that you send me of you goofing around at work, or me snapping you a video of a nice car or whatever, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like something sees those, you know all the time, no matter what it is. You know what I mean? And because I
Yeah.
don't think that every text message I send or every snap I send or whatever is like looked at by something. You know
No,
what
it
I
has to
mean?
hit some type
Yeah,
of like
there's some sort
algorithm
of
or issue.
filter. Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
filter, right? But what I'm saying is like, you would need something so intrusive and so pinpoint accurate to figure that out, that it would trample over the rights of people that don't do anything wrong. Do you get what I'm saying? It's like the whole
Correct.
concept of like taking the guns away from everybody. You know what I mean? Or saying guns are illegal means the
Hmm.
law abiding citizens are the ones that'll suffer the most, not the people who are going to go get them illegally anyway, right? Because
What's
making things illegal doesn't work, because murder is illegal and that still happens. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But
As I
what
was
I'm
getting a
saying
little
is,
pro con thing.
so what I'm getting at too is like when you talk about like you're arresting somebody that's doing this, okay,
Hmm.
you're arresting the person at the very, very bottom of the barrel. Like they're not in making decisions. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's like you going through the gate as a full bird colonel and yelling at the A1C about the gate being closed. You know what I mean? It's like
You closed the gate,
yeah,
Colonel.
you should know, or yeah, or maybe you're the ops group commander and you're yelling at the A1C because you're not actually in charge of the base, but you're the same pay grade, right? But
Yeah.
you're yelling at the A1C about why the gate is closed, when you should know damn well as an O6 that E3 had literally nothing to do with the gate being closed other than pushing a button because somebody on the other end of the radio told him or her to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you
Yeah. Yeah.
yelling at the A1C is the most fruitless thing you could do in this moment. Like, people on this base that could give you an answer, and you're yelling at the A1C, right? Anyway, that happens all the time. But all I'm trying to say is like you would have to make, you have, first off, you have to catch the people that are making this happen at the highest level. You know what I mean? Like cutting the head off the snake. But I agree with
But
you that
it's a
you should make that lifestyle so untenable that the consequences of it are so feared. But I don't know what that could be, because like even when the death penalty existed, and
hmm.
it still exists, but you know what I'm saying, like the threat of death is not enough for some people. You know what I mean? And it's just like, you're willing to take your life into your hands because let's say the probability of you getting caught is 30%, or that, well, 70% of the time we can be successful. So, and then you like have these stupid human thoughts where you're like, well, I'm different and I'm not going to get caught, or or whatever. You know what I mean? When it comes to
Yeah.
anything, you know what I mean? No one's going to see me
Yeah.
shove this shirt in my backpack at Sears, which doesn't
Yep.
exist anymore. So, haha.
Because
But
people
anyway,
kept taking all the shirts.
yeah, right, or Blockbuster. But anyway, I'm just saying that like I do though. I think you'd have to have some form of like corporal punishment or like public punishment, maybe. I don't know. But then again, you'd also have to. That would also. It also begs the question that there are people out there that aren't at the levels of leadership within the justice system that aren't involved and or getting paid off
Yeah, and they won't
to
allow it
right.
either.
Yeah, so I, just like
It's
to
it's a
me, like I
very
think the idea of
complicated
awareness is the best.
problem.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I like it. Just like to me is it. It feels like such a proliferated problem now on so many levels in many different ways.
Mm,
Because like when if you believe all the accounts you see on social media of like people and like thinking like everyone's got a Ring camera or a Vivint or whatever, and I see all these videos of like people that are like they realize looking back like they you're out there washing your car like some mom and they've got their 6-year-old kid running around the yard, and then they realize that this white van has driven by 5 times, you know what I mean? And so like you catch that on video, like what is somebody thinking, you know what I mean? Like
mhm.
kidnappings happen all the time, unfortunately, but then you have all these other stories about people coming to their car, getting in their car and driving home, and then realizing there was like a zip tie on the door handle or something else, you know what I mean? Like those sorts of situations that it seems like where somebody is trying to human traffic somebody or kidnap them happen a lot more frequently now. And to me that means that there's the tentacles of that octopus lead back to a much bigger octopus than there used to be.
Mhm.
Does that metaphor kind of make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Or maybe it used to be a bunch of like smaller things, and like someone's now put it together. Like it's now one giant operation.
Right.
Who's to say though? But no, I the thing with like you were saying, you would need something so intrusive to know, but then that item would be so intrusive that you would catch everyone breaking every law ever. Like
Exactly.
you,
You
you
would
know what I mean? Like
yeah.
and like no one would be a good citizen. Like
Like, dude,
I'm not,
Ricky stole that stereo system from Best Buy last week.
but it would be something just as so minute, like rolling a
Mm-hmm.
stop sign, uh,
True,
going 55 and a 50, like,
bro. You just made me think
and
of
then
something crazy. Could you imagine if your phone was ratting you out because like the GPS knows
yeah,
the route you're taking and it knows where the stop signs are, and then it doesn't register that you stopped at a stop sign and it reports you to some like fucking inbox, and then you get a
yeah,
ticket in the mail because your fucking Apple Maps reported you. It's like, fuck you. You know what I mean? Can you imagine that, dude? Like the technology exists for that. I hope I didn't give
you know
anybody an idea.
what's wild is it's something similar. So I used to own a BRZ until it
Mm,
died. It had like an electrical issue and it was lemon lawed. But I'm still a moderator in a BRZ group, and
of
we've
course you are.
noticed, of course, we've noticed that there's people who like they'll go to a track, right? And they'll like drive around on the track, and then like they'll blow their engine or like something will happen, and then they'll take it to the dealership and be like, hey, I need warranty work. I was driving down the road and it started sounding weird. The dealership will plug the car into like a computer, and the car knows you were at a track.
Wow.
Like even though you didn't, you could have not had your smartphone with you, nothing. The car knows you were at a track. And what's crazy is
No shit.
it doesn't even need GPS to do it.
It just
So
recognizes you're in some sort of pattern over and over and
yes,
over again.
so
Mm.
it knows the like routes of all the tracks, and then it can like dictate based off of engine speed, G forces, like everything, braking, and it
Dude,
knows what track you were on and when you were there.
that's wild.
So
So
and
what,
so
like you could get in
Subaru
trouble?
so Subaru was like, no, your warranty's denied. We know you were on a track. And a warranty clearly states like any track use is not warranted.
Whoa.
And people are like, what? I wasn't on a track. So like they're trying to fight Subaru, and Subaru's like, yes, you were. And they bring out all like this data. And they're like, your car was on a track from this time to this time on this exact day. Your engine blew up at this exact moment. Like your car knows
Dude, that's
way
fucking
more than you
crazy. I
think
did
it
not
knows.
know that. That's actually,
Yeah.
dude, that's altogether smart and scary at the same time.
Yeah.
Like most of technology. But yeah, dude,
And
that's
I guess vehicles like and that's been a thing for a while. They just haven't really super enforced it,
Hmm.
or they like haven't had enough data. But like now, like cars know a lot, especially
Hmm.
like all the chips in them and stuff. So like, uh, if you like get involved in like an accident, like the car now knows who pressed the brakes and when. How hard did you press the brakes? Like there's
So they
so much
they could go
information.
into like the computer from both cars and be like,
Who was
and
at fault?
know this
Yeah,
person braked at this like 3 p.m. 3:57 p.m. at 26 seconds after, and this person at 3:56 p.m. at 31 seconds after, or whatever.
yep,
Oh,
yep.
dude, that's nuts.
And they can know
Huh.
exactly where your car like parked, like a whole bunch of stuff. Like most cars
Yeah,
today
yeah.
have like, oh, I can turn it on with my phone. Well,
Hmm.
you're also telling like Chevy or whoever your car is with, like where your car is parked.
Hmm.
It knows
Well,
like
yeah,
where
your
you
phone will
drove it.
sometimes say like I've seen that like on my
Yeah,
GPS. It'll be like, do you want to mark this spot as you know home
yeah.
or
You
whatever?
remember where you
Like,
parked it? Yeah.
yeah,
Is
exactly.
this work or home? You're like, stop.
Hmm.
This is the grocery store. I just work
Exactly.
here.
You just come here so often. Yeah, right. Exactly. The strip club. Is this work or home? It's neither.
Where's the strip club option?
Exactly.
Yeah, no, yeah, the intrusiveness already exists because they're like, no, your warranty doesn't work because you were on a track and we know it. You
Yeah.
money shifted at fourth gear at 6,000 RPM. We saw it.
I think I just
But
more so meant that like you people would have to like be willing to let that technology, whatever it would be,
yeah,
you know,
for sure.
infiltrate their private space, and it would have to be like everybody. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't even know what the hell you could do. I just, it is such a massive issue. It sucks.
yeah.
All right, man. What's your last question?
My last question. It's more just kind of just getting an idea of like where you're at. I guess where for the specificness of this question. Do you, Brandon Gresham, feel prepared for a collapse of society, both
No.
locally or nationally? Neither. You don't feel prepared for either.
I know I'm not prepared for either. Not to put my business out there. I have some stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know I have like, I'll just say I have a few contingency plans.
hmm
Um, yeah, I'm not going to give all my answers to this because I feel like that's
that's fine.
an advantage because I do have
Yeah,
things. Um,
yeah, yeah.
but like it's kind of like that whole like oh, we're waiting to have kids until we're ready, and like you realize after a while that there's never a point where you're like ready. You know what I mean? You could
hmm
have all the
hmm
money, you could have all the diapers and all the baby
At some
cream and
point, you
all
just
this
gotta
stuff.
do it.
You just got to fucking pull the trigger. Yeah, and do
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean? So it's like, do I feel ready? The short answer is no, because
hmm
I can't account for all things, right? I can't
Correct.
account for all outcomes. I can't account for all things happening. I won't. I don't know. The best thing I could do is to, I think, be aware that something could happen, right? Let's
hmm
just say like the power grid went down. You know what I mean? Like I know what I would do. I
hmm
know where I would go. I've had this thought. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
that's better than most.
right. And yeah, I just think the military teaches you to be that way, dude.
Eh, I've met some people in the
Some,
military
yeah,
who ain't
but
gonna
there are. I think. All right, let's put it this way: some AFSCs and MOSs, right, seem to be more
think more about
prepared
this
than
than
think
others.
more about
Yeah,
this than others. Um,
yeah,
Short answer is no. I do have contingency plans. I do have resources. And I have contingency plans and resources for different things happening, right? So, like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
let's put it this way: total Mad Max collapse of society. Nobody's going to care if you've got bars of gold in a safe. They're going to care if you have a garage full of bottles of water, though.
hmm For sure.
What about you?
Yeah, no, the I was asking because obviously like right now, right, is it France? Right now, France is like going wild,
Bro,
but
that was another question I almost asked you. It was like, oh, it's about a 17-year-old getting shot and killed by a police. Yeah, no, it's not. Not completely.
I'm not going to get into the whole situation of why
I know,
they're in
dude. Yeah.
shambles, but the like
Black
France
water.
right now is just wild, and like to me that's a local collapse depending where you're at in France right now, right?
Dude,
And
when you think about revolutions, though, France always gets the fuck down, bro. It's time to bring out the fucking guillotine. That's
France always
just like,
wins.
dude,
Every French
vive la
Revolution, France has
France.
won.
Vive la liberté. Vive la France. Right?
They just love taking down leaders and just causing riots, but whatever. It's like the French thing to do. But no, I was just kind of because I see that, right, and then obviously, the United States is huge. The odds of it being completely nationally like falling into collapse would be. I think the world's in a way worse spot if that's happening. But
Yeah.
like locally, it could definitely happen. You could have like you said, power grid go out, like Las Vegas and like parts of Arizona and like Southern California is like all powered by like the Hoover Dam, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if that just stopped, like you got like what, like 2 days, 3 days before like
Bro,
all your food runs out.
that would be
Like,
mayhem and anarchy so fast.
yeah.
I just want to say this too, real quick. There's so many homeless people and people that are used to living on the streets
Oh,
in
they're
LA,
winning.
in LA, dude. And if you think that you're gonna get out of your home and survive against a bunch of fucking crackhead homeless people, you're wrong. Because you've never been desperate to that level. Dude, think
I'm,
about that.
I'm not going to express my exact plans, but to any who's listening, I would highly recommend leaving well-populated
Yeah.
areas immediately.
No, that dude, everywhere I thought about going, like, is smart. We're gonna have
And
my buddy. We have to
keep
have
your
my
circle
buddy.
very tight knit,
Yeah,
and
and your shot group very tight knit.
yeah, aim small, miss small.
Yeah,
If you aim
no,
for
we
a
gotta.
button, hit the torso. If you aim
Do
for the
we?
torso, you're probably gonna miss.
Yeah, we gotta have my buddy Chris on one day to talk about this.
Doomsday prepping.
Yeah,
And I think it's so funny.
fieldcraft,
That stuff gets like such like I talk to like my younger brothers about it, and they're like, "Why would you blah blah blah?" And it's like,
dude.
okay,
They're
we
already
just
fucking lost causes at that point.
I don't know, we just went through like a COVID pandemic that could have very well led to a lot of societal collapse and a bunch of random weird shit. I would. It's like the whole notion of like I'd rather have a gun and not need it, never use it,
I'd
than
rather
that
be
one
a
moment where I need it.
rather be
I'd
a
rather
warrior
be
in
a
a garden than
yeah,
a gardener in a war.
yep.
Yep, absolutely.
And it's like it keeps me healthy. It keeps my mind active. It
It's
keeps
like,
me like motivated. Like
dude,
I
put it
don't
this
have
way:
any,
it's
there's
like,
zero negatives.
right, if you go through all the trouble of becoming mentally and physically fit to survive something like the apocalypse, and the apocalypse never happens, then oops, you fucked around and wound up physically and mentally fit anyway.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
fuck you
And
and your,
and
you know,
most people like that too are usually like financially well off because they had to like invest a lot of money into
yeah.
this.
But they
They're
think that's what's
usually
gonna save them too. You know what I mean? Which is
yeah.
funny because historically, the people that make all the money are the ones that get got after first. Which is the point I'm making. If you try and flee your home and you think you're going to survive on the streets with
Yeah.
a population of homeless people like there is in LA, you're going to wind up a lampshade in somebody's tent on the outside of your house.
Imagine you're in like California and you're some like rich, upper middle class, lower high class person. You got your two Teslas, grid goes out, you're trying to escape. Where you going?
Yeah,
Can't defend
congrats.
yourself. Can't
You now own a really big fucking paperweight.
yeah. And the crackheads are gonna use it as a fuck shack. So
Yeah. Dirty Mike and the boys.
yep.
Well, man, I think it's that's a good spot to wrap it up because
Dirty Mike.
I don't know if Dirty Mike did. You know what I'm saying?
I
But
don't think you did.
thanks for the F Shack. But yeah, dude, great conversation as always, man. And
Yeah.
yeah, dude, I hope you have a good night. And
You too. And to all listening, I hope if you're waking up, have a good day.
yeah,
If you're going to
whatever you're
sleep,
doing,
have a good
man.
night.
Right now,
I hope
if
it's
you're
great.
driving in your car, if you're at home, whatever, if you're at work and you're just listening to us, thanks for just listening. But
Hmm.
most importantly, please check out our sponsors. It helps us out. It helps them out. It's what helps the podcast keep going. If you enjoy our work, please subscribe. If you subscribe to one, why not just subscribe to all and help boost our numbers? You know what I'm saying?
I
Interact
mean,
with
that
us on
you mean?
social media. Share with your friends. Tell your friends about me, please. And yeah, like, comment, share, subscribe, one love, all that good stuff.